BBC9 and 10:53 a.m.
TalkSport presents the UK's most irrepressible presenters in a Christmas Clash of the Titans.
TalkSport would like to point out that the following feature contains some pretty strong opinions, some outlandish conjecture, and 4 nuts, including 1 cheery wee face Brazil nut.
Get on with it. What's the first question?
Okay, it's a moment to go down in radio history.
You've done
about
that
to
bit.
witness the clash of the Titans. I'm Alan Brazil, and I have the fascinating task of refereeing the next couple of hours. It's taken months of negotiations, cost thousands of lives, but they've finally managed to get the 3 legends of broadcasting together in one place for the next 2 hours, just for your entertainment. An alphabet, boom, boom, boom.
We're not doing it again. That's
No.
the 5th time.
Let me introduce the 3 contestants. Okay, alphabetical order. Tommy Boyd, the longest-standing presenter on the station. He was there at the very beginning and will probably be here at the end.
Which
but
is
will he
about a week
survive?
away.
Will he survive 2 hours with the other 2? Mike Dickin is TalkSport's Mr. Angry. A journalist and broadcaster of 30 years, Mike did Britain's first ever radio phone-in. Didn't realise that, Mike.
I did.
Last but not least, Mr. Whale. James, he's the undisputed king of the late-night phone-ins and has been thrashing his radio opposition for many years. Yes, folks, there's no radio trickery involved. They really are here, unchained, the gloves are off. Nowhere else on the dial will you find this calibre of radio talent. Guys, can I say hello?
that?
Hello,
No,
I
I
did
did.
not write that. I did not write that.
Worst
That's Nicky's
drivel
fault.
I have ever heard.
I wrote the bit about me. I don't know who made yours up.
Honestly.
Right, guys.
Now, could you do us a favour before we
Yes, go
start?
on.
Just put the script away. And let's, for a few hours, just enjoy a little company, a few drinks, and just a little conversation. That's
When
all
you're
we
just
want.
dragged off the street, though, you know, and you're told 3 minutes in advance.
Has he been breathalyzed today?
Twice. Now, the season of goodwill, the Queen's speech and all that, abolition of the monarchy. Let me think. The French, what they did away with theirs, 1789, the Russians, 1917. I wonder what we've got here. Tommy Boyd, how do you feel about our royalty? Are you a royal fan?
First of all, Alan, I just want to very quickly say what a pleasure it is to be sharing.
Oh, get on with it.
Yeah, please, honestly. There's enough
And
of that
Merry
crap.
Christmas to all of you,
Yeah, to
gentlemen,
you
and,
too.
and
Absolutely.
everything that you wish yourselves in the new year. The royal family.
Are we the royal family? We could be the
I'm
royal
talking about
family.
the real royal family. Not
Oh,
I think the thing about the royal family is you can't abolish them. You can't, unless you chop their heads off. And I believe
Not a bad idea.
That's what we're discussing in about an hour's time, isn't it? Alan, is capital
absolutely.
punishment on your list?
Of course it
There's
is.
a surprise.
Yes.
There's a surprise, right. So unless you chop their heads off, I think you're stuck with them. And so in that spirit, they're going to be around. I want to give my wholehearted support to them. If you're lucky enough ever to spend quality time with a member of the royal family, a major member of the royal family,
you
as
won't
I
get a
am,
knighthood.
you find out that they themselves are just as jaundiced and cynical about the strange life that they have to lead.
It is a strange
Hang on,
one.
As the likes of us.
When did you spend time,
I was-
quality time, with a member of the royal family? We're not talking about the bloody TV show, you know.
Haven't you read the book about
Since
Diana?
you asked, I was lucky enough to be asked to interview Prince Charles in his parlour at Buckingham Palace. And the interview took 10 minutes, but then the fella said, well, I'm not actually doing anything. He said, so you
you
don't
can
have
do
to
better
rush
than
Who's
that.
off.
that, Philip? Or who?
You don't have-
Sorry, who was
I
that?
wrote actually.
You don't have to rush off. So we sat there on this sofa, which I always remember was recovered in one of those cheap old things that you can get and drape around.
No,
And,
Draylon.
Wallace, no.
No, it's
you
Draylon.
know all those things that they get presented with when they give a little Pacific Island its independence. The royal family go out there and they get presented with something. He's got them all, and they're all up on his wall, and it's quite touching. And at one point, he said that he did this. He said to me, he said, "I'm peckish." He said, "Would you like an orange?" So I said, "No, thanks." He said, "Well, I'm quite like an orange." So he rang down.
I'd have gone with that.
Could you send me up an orange?
Is he a Jaffa then?
Yeah, no. And he said, there was a knock on the door. Right? And he went, "Come in." And the door opened, and there was this fella in scarlet livery, gold brocade, the white stockings, you know, and the shoes with a gold buckle, and a white wig on,
James's eyebrows raised.
and
there.
a silver
stockings.
tray, and it was piled high with all the fruits of the Orient, pineapples and kiwi fruit, and on the top was a little orange. And he looked at me, and he rolled his eyes, and what he was saying
What did he
was-
roll?
He rolled his eyes,
Oh, right.
And this is what he was saying. He was saying, "This is what it's like to be me. Could you live with it? Could you live with it?"
How did you feel with him, Tommy? Was it a sort of good afternoon, good morning, a little bow, or?
Well, to begin with, they give you all this protocol that you have to observe.
Tommy Boyd, this is your life. I thought we were talking about the royal family.
They say,
No, I like this story. It's good.
They say when His Royal Highness comes into the room, okay, you must be standing. Now you'll fall on this. You have to be standing with your back to the wall, as far away from him as possible.
I told you, it's a jumper.
It's just a protocol thing. And you have to be standing also with your hands behind your back. Anyway, then he comes in.
And if you refuse to do this,
well, you don't, do you? You don't. Although I do
I'll tell you
remember.
my story
But
afterwards.
why? You know, at the end of the day, why can't you just put your hand out?
It's a protocol thing. You have to wait, and he offers his hand, and then you shake it.
Really?
And you get coached in what you're supposed to call him and sir, when it's sir and when it's your Royal Highness, that kind of thing. But you can tell that he is bored out of his tiny with all of that. And it's a form of imprisonment. And he didn't do anything wrong. And so, I'm here to say...
You feel sorry for him.
They're not a bad lot. Look, you go abroad, and what do they talk about? Unfortunately, they do not talk about 1966. They don't. They don't talk about the Beatles. They don't talk about all the things that we'd like them to remember Britain for or celebrate.
If you're there, probably can't get a word in.
Talk about the
Harrods. Harrods. They talk about, have you been to Harrods? James, I've just got a funny feeling you're not a royalist.
No, well, I enjoyed that story. I have a little story. I've never met any members of the royal family. I'm not opposed to meeting them, by the way. But I did go and do a little film as a what time of day is it again? It's Christmas, isn't it?
Christmas
I can never remember.
afternoon.
It's a Mickey take. Oh, well, I better moderate my language. It was a little Mickey take. I went to do the honours system to make a film. And I conned my way in there with passes from ITN for a camera crew and myself, and I wore one of those long coats that journalists seem to favour. You know, the sort of rather dull sports coats.
Mike Paddy coats, yeah.
Exactly. Yes, the evil dwarf, as you call him off there.
Yeah.
What was it? What was it?
Papa Smurf. That's what
yes,
Mike
Papa
calls him.
Smurf. Yeah. Or the abominable snowman. Now, there's a guy called Dickie Arbiter. I don't know if
Oh, God, I know Dickie Arbiter.
Oh, right. Well,
He used to be in charge of paperclips at LBC.
did he? Oh, well, he this particular time, he's the press liaison or something for the royal family. And we get that. I wanted to do interviews with people who'd had their gongs and everything, and I was doing it a little tongue-in-cheek. And he came up to me, and he was very angry. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, I'm asking people about, what it's like to get the MBE and all that sort of stuff.
James, was he wearing his riding boots?
He was wearing a very boring suit. He was a very rude man.
He always wears his
And
riding
quite frankly,
boots.
it
He's
won't
never been on a
worry
horse in
me
his life.
if I never meet the silly sod again. But the upshot of this was he drew a line in the gravel. He said, "This is not the right protocol and not the right behaviour. Have you not been told how to behave? Well, this is the royal family. We're in the courtyard of Buckingham Palace." He drew a line in the gravel with his foot. He said, "If you or any of your crew step over that, you'll be thrown out." And I'm filming all this. I put it out on my TV show years ago. And so, of course, I did step over the line. And then this enormous guardsman in a long grey coat and a busby came up and said, "You'll have to leave. I'm very sorry." And he marched off, as they do. And another one came behind us, and there's me and a cameraman and the director marching in between. And I'm saying, keep rolling. So I've got this all on film. And we were marched out. But that's my little royal story. I personally think we need a royal family as a figurehead. I'm not happy with the fact that the royal family is entwined in the constitution of this country. I'd like to see us all having citizenship. We don't. There's no Bill of Rights, as you know, in this country, and we are all subjects of the crown. I'd like to see all of that taken away, and I'd just like to see them there for pomp and ceremony.
Were you delighted when our dearest queen had to pay tax, for instance, James? You think?
No,
good?
I couldn't give a stuff about the money and everything else, really. It's not going to make any difference to us. I thought that Diana would have made a great head of the country, very fairy tale-ish. I see them as a soap opera. That's what I see.
Really?
I see them as a soap opera. I see them meeting a few dignitaries. They should, at the height of the tourist season, be one of them coming. If the old Pope can stagger onto his balcony at his age, the Queen Mother could do it, or any of them could come out maybe 3 times a day during the tourist season and wave.
They dress very similarly, actually, the Queen Mother and the Pope, don't they?
It's difficult to tell them apart.
What about the tragic news when Diana died? Saddened, James? Because
I was nearly taken off the air by the radio authority, and at that particular time, the program director of the radio station I was working on said, "You've crossed the line," because I was furious that people were being told when they rang the palace, and I was on the air at the time. You were on when it first happened.
I was on when she actually died.
Yeah. I actually was the day after that. Everybody's ringing him. They're ringing the palace. They're being treated abysmally as we all are in these sort of bureaucrats that run this country. And they buried her on a gun. And so I gave people the number of the palace and said, ring and make your complaints. And they did in their thousands. But I was vindicated, by the way, at the end. And I didn't overstep the mark, as I knew I hadn't. But I thought the handling of that was appalling. Absolutely appalling.
Mike Dickin, you were on air, as James was saying.
Yeah, it was
what was your feeling?
It was quite a moment. Well, we'd had a warning that she'd been involved in an accident in France, and we were told that Dodi Fayed was dead and that she was seriously injured. We had an eyewitness report saying she was seen walking to the ambulance. So I was quite confident to say that, although Diana may be seriously injured, we understand that she is not in a life-threatening situation. And while I was reading that, so came the flash that she died. A bit of a shock. Well, I think we handled it fairly well. And, of course, the programming for the next 2 weeks, as all three of us here can confirm, was entirely devoted to Diana, not our choice, the choice of the listeners. And after all, it's their choice.
Was Charles suddenly made a villain after this?
Well, to me, he's always been a villain. I never liked the bloke. I met him once many years ago. I met the Queen once many years ago, and indeed the Queen Mother. Which story do you want? The Queen Mother.
Queen Mother.
The Queen Mother. I was at Windsor races with my wife and younger daughter, and she was about 2 years old. And we were walking along...
the Queen Mother?
Yeah, she was a very young Queen Mother at those days. And we were walking through from one area to another, and my daughter would not stop crying, wouldn't stop moaning. She was wet and it was cold and she didn't like it. And this little lady walking along in front of her turned round and stuck her arms out to pick her up. My wife snatched her away. And it was the Queen Mother. And I said, you stupid cow.
You can't say that to Queen Mother.
I said to my wife, as I frequently do, she could have been married to one of the princes. We were away there. But that was one encounter. The other was the Queen launched the only ever lifeboat to be launched inshore. An offshore lifeboat launched inshore. It was launched at Henley in 1900. And I was a reporter for the BBC at the time. And I was sent at the last minute because the bloke who was supposed to go hadn't turned up. And I hadn't got the rotor pass, which you need, but I just happened to know the copper on the gate, fortuitously. And he let me through. The Queen was already walked to the crowds and crowds of people, and this duckboarding laid out right down to the river. And her Madge was already there, sort of champagne in hand or whatever, about to smack it on the lifeboat. And I had a bloody great ewer. I don't know if anybody remembers these tape recorders. They weigh about half a ton. You strap them on your back. Very old-fashioned things. And I had that strapped to my back. And I had to get from where I was at the back of the marquee to the river in order to record Her Majesty's fine words of launching this boat. The only way was through the crowd. And I fought my way through the crowd. I obviously wasn't going to make it. So I stepped out onto the duckboarding that had been laid out for Her Madge. And I chunk down this duckboarding all the way to the river. And I was sweating like a pig, trying to switch the machine on, got the microphone out, stuck it round in front of her, and she turned around and said, "Are you ready?" And
I think that's nice, Sam. I think that's a nice thought of the royal family. I like to take them out of politics. I'd like to take them out of all the sort of the things that they...
Yeah, James, if I could just come,
I knew you would.
Come in at that point, because I can't leave it alone now that you've brought it up twice. You do seem to be suffering from a slight misunderstanding about the political clout that the royal family have.
No, I know they don't have
frankly
any.
less than
yeah,
zero.
exactly. I know they don't have any.
Dismiss the Prime Minister.
And an essential part of the whole confection is that she is, in the eyes of the world, somehow some kind of proper queen, which of course we in this country all know that she isn't. She's actually got less clout than even the Conservative Party.
If I might be so bold, Tommy, I think actually is a nice idea, but I think, if I may say, that you're slightly off beam, if I may use a sort of royal term, that the royal family are there in a position that the media and the politicians can use them to take the attention away from themselves, and they do this periodically.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're a total anathema. I mean, despite all the nice things that have been said, and the nice little stories we all have, as far as I'm concerned, if I never saw one of them again, it wouldn't bother me. And
what about all the revenue they bring in? Tourism. What about the revenue they bring in?
That is complete bollocks, and you know it. It is totally untrue. Palaces around the world that don't have a royal family still get millions of visitors go to see the palace. We should get rid of the royal family, turn the palaces into museums, and let the revenue flow. There is no way in this century that we can tolerate having a royal family.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do.
Hang on,
Michael.
Stupid. I can't even begin
you
with
know as well as I do, if you did that, you get somebody else who'd want to be in there, whether it was Blair when he's really made a complete mess up of running this country, looks for another job for himself, he'd be in there. I personally think as well we should have either an elected monarchy. Keep these in, I don't mind, as long as they're there as a tourist attraction. And I think we should get rid of our soldiers. We don't have many soldiers. We need more. The jobs that the household cavalry do and standing outside, that could all be done by out-of-work actors. I don't understand why we're wasting the skills of proper soldiers
I
there.
thought they were out-of-work actors.
Well, but hold on, gentlemen, let's take the Tower of London. The queues there to see the jewels there. Have you been round?
Well, we don't get rid of the
jewels,
do we?
Keep
all the artifacts, keep all the
hang on.
keep all the royal parks, but get rid of the royal family.
This is a Scotsman telling us what to do here. What are we listening to him for?
I've been round there. I've had a look at the jewels. In fact, Tommy, by the look of your left arm, you like a bit of jewellery, don't you? Have you been round there, had a look?
No, I haven't, because that's for tourists, and I live here.
Maybe it's for tourists. Part of your heritage, your history.
When I went
He's a loyal subject of the Queen, bless him.
When I visited New York, I went up the Statue of Liberty and I went up the Empire State Building. And the people I was staying with, I came back and I said to them, it's fantastic. Have you ever been up there? And they said, no, it's just for tourists. We don't go. Similarly, as far as I'm concerned, Trafalgar Square is a roundabout. And Piccadilly Circus, I have never been able to see what the attraction of that is.
I agree
but
with
apparently
that.
everybody from Sweden to Tokyo who comes
Absolutely.
here has their photograph taken at Piccadilly Circus. God only knows why. The Tower of London, I've never been. I've run past it twice on a couple of marathons.
James, you sold me another bottle of
But as I understand it, gentlemen, the proposition which is before us is: do we support or otherwise the abolition of the monarchy?
Yes,
and
I do.
I don't see how you can abolish a family.
Well,
are
you
you going
abolish
to
the
do
family,
that?
you just take the royal away.
I mean, this royal... I think we need something as a figurehead, but I don't want them to have any power at all.
They haven't got any power. They haven't had any power for hundreds of years, not since Cromwell.
A lot of people in this country think they do. And every time... You know, if Charlie came in now... I'm not bloody bowing, nor the old girl.
Not me.
If I'm on the air
I
one
wouldn't
night,
stand for
as
the
may
national
happen,
anthem.
when the Queen Mother snuffs it, I shall say it's very sad. She was through a lot of the history of this country, and we should reflect on it. Kirsty MacColl died the other day. I think that was tragic as well.
Dreadful.
And I think that, we should think about it. But if I'm taken off the air, or if I'm expected to play morbid music because the Queen Mother has died, outside, all these producers we have hanging around on places like this with no work to do, they go through the procedures of what to do in case of the death of a member of the royal family. Who gives a stuff?
James,
It's a shame, but for God's sake, let's get on with life.
I don't know if
Christmas,
it's
everyone, eh?
significant of our advancing ages. Maybe we felt differently when we were younger. But when the royal
What do
family...
you mean, like Tommy?
Well, yeah,
when we
the
were
royal-
younger, like
yeah,
Tommy.
we were very young, like Tommy. When the royal family stayed behind the wall and stayed at the top of their ivory tower, I had a greater reverence for them than I do now. Not a great reverence, but I had a reverence. It's when they climbed down their ivory tower and let us, the common folk, meet them, and we found out how thick they are and how intellectually challenged they are. I think that's when I suddenly thought, why have I been standing for the national anthem? Why have I been bowing to the Queen?
I don't
No
stand
bloody
for the
way
national
would I ever
anthem.
do it again.
And another thing, you know, the national anthem of this country is such a dirge. No wonder we never win any sporting titles. Because what self-respecting athlete wants to stand on a podium when they play that rubbish?
Did you not see them England players bellowing it out before they got defeated in the last game at Wembley to Germany?
Exactly my point.
You talk to
Alan.
us about England getting
Exactly
defeated.
my point.
On 1089 and 1053 AM, TalkSport.
Ho, ho, ho! Hello, young man. And what do you want for Christmas?
Well, a season pass to one of the executive boxes at Highbury would be well wicked, man.
Football First Boxing Day Special, tomorrow morning from 11. Get all the latest football news and results from all the Boxing Day games across the country. Adrian Bobblehat Durham and Alvin Crimbo Cake Martin with everything you need to know about football this Christmas. Football First Boxing Day Special, faster than a turbocharged reindeer with a set of Go Faster stripes. Tomorrow morning from 11. Only on the UK's best sports radio station, TalkSport. Dickin versus Boyd versus Wales in a bite off your ear Clash of the Titans special on TalkSport.
Now, from the royal family, of course, no Catholics allowed on the throne. That brings us on to our next topic. Religion, gentlemen. Dinner parties, it's taboo, but not here today.
Why is religion taboo?
Well, that's what I'm told. No, it causes too many arguments, James. Too many
Should
arguments.
never talk about sex, religion, or politics at the
We will
dinner
be out
table.
of work.
Absolutely. None of us have a job.
Tommy, now, I'm looking at you two. I'm going to start with Tommy, because Tommy looks, in your younger day, Tommy, I bet you were a churchgoer.
I had to go to church. We all had to go to church. All of us had to go to church.
And there's nothing wrong with that, is there?
I've never been to church in my life. Not as a sort of Sunday regular. Never.
No, but I
didn't have to go to church.
I had to.
You get sent to
I
church.
had to because I was in the choir.
And this is what happened, and this is what gave for me at the age of 7 a perspective on the church. I was sent to Sunday school, which I loathed on a Sunday afternoon, although there was nothing much else to do. But I was sent to Sunday school, and this went on for a year or two. My brother and I, and we'd sit there in this empty church, 20 or 30 youngsters, and we'd sing a song, and there'd be a prayer, and somebody would come and tell us a story, and I couldn't understand it, and it began to seem more and more nonsensical to me. Then, one warm summer afternoon, it was decided that we'd all go for a walk. So we went for a walk. And because one of the Sunday school teachers happened to live in the same road as me, we walked down our road because he needed to nip in and get something, as I remember. And it was as I was standing opposite my own house, with my parents convinced that the children were at Sunday school, that I realised why I was sent to Sunday school, because the bedroom curtains were drawn, and my mum and dad were having a nice, peaceful, quiet, friendly, energetic Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. Can you imagine your parents having sex? I mean, I know this is off the subject. Can anybody really think of their own parents
I must admit, my mind was racing at the time. Yes, you're right, Mike. You're absolutely right. I was having to deal with that.
Hearing your parents go to the toilet, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, those are the things you don't want to know about.
Yeah. Sorry, anyway,
Now, hold on. We've gone from a pleasant Sunday afternoon stroll to... We've gone off the track here. Back to Tommy.
Well, you're the chairman.
What I'm here to say is that organised religion has it's a device which serves a lot of purposes. It serves the state, and it serves us all as individuals. But the business of who is God, is so utterly private that I am convinced it is the one thing, Alan, that you could not prize out of the 3 men that you're sharing the studio with between now and this time next year. Our own private belief.
Well, I know Ash thinks James is God. I know that, just listening to him at night. Mike Dickin, I don't believe you're in the choir.
I was, actually. Not only was I in the choir, because I was sort of forced to by my grandparents. I have a fabulous voice, and I actually was the lead soprano with the choir.
I don't suppose we're going to get a little...
And did a recording of Ave Maria.
Are we going to get a little...
which I don't happen to have with me, so I'm afraid...
Come on, mate.
You'll have to go without that.
It just goes Ave Maria.
Did you ever get stuck in the confessional box?
It was the wrong sort of church, Alan.
Oh, really?
Mine was Church of England. However, I went on from that some years later to help build a church. It was a converted barn they were building the church, and I actually did labour, as you would, lifting the bricks and all the rest of it, helped to build the church.
You've actually got builder's hands.
Hang on, and then, when they appointed the vicar and so on, he became sort of matey with those that built the church, and I became a Sunday school teacher up until the age of 16.
Oh, right.
And all of a sudden, the kids started to ask me questions I couldn't answer. And I re-examined what I believed very closely. And then I felt such a fool that I've been conned for 16 years of my life by absolute total bullshit, because there is no such person as God. There may have been a bloke called Jesus Christ, but he was just a latter-day Paul Daniels going around doing tricks. But I have no belief whatsoever in God. I think organised religion is only there to control people. And I think those who believe in God or some superior being, or fascinated by being involved in some particularly organised religion, are rather sad.
Mike, when things are going tough or a tragedy, do you not think to say, oh my God, please. Do you not...
I appeal to an inner me, but I don't appeal to a God. I think there's something more powerful within me that I can call upon in times of trouble, because most of the time you don't need to call on your inner strength, only in times of real trouble. And when I'm in real trouble, I call upon whatever is within me that I know is there, that I can rely on. There's a reservoir of strength in there that you only tap into occasionally.
Okay, you don't believe in God, but the 10 Commandments, gentlemen, if you follow the 10 Commandments, does that not make you a better person?
But that's the moral code. The moral code was around long before there was any religion or any God. The moral code has been on this earth, and that's what makes me sick about these moralists. They say, but if you're a moral Christian person, you don't have to be a Christian person, you don't have to be a Muslim, you don't have to be anything else to be moral. I have a very strong moral code, and yet I have no belief in God or religion. You cannot marry those two and make any sense. There was a moral code, and there's always been right and wrong. God didn't invent right and wrong.
Okay, mate. Now, James, I listen regularly to your show in the evening, and I know that the Catholic Church has been lambasted lately about paedophiles. What's your view on religion, James?
I don't like religion at all. I find religion... I have some friends who are religious. I have friends who are in the churches. And are fascinating people to talk to. But I hate people who are religious because they think they ought to be religious. Now, I mean, everybody knows that this year I had a sort of a little look at my own demise, and there is absolutely no doubt. It's not, when people close to you die, you think you know about tragedy, you think you know, but when you're actually faced with your own imminent death, there's another. I can't explain it. I'm not even going to bother to explain it now. It's not about. I still hate religion, but there is some sort of, I suppose, hope grabbing onto something, some sort of wish to continue, and strange things that happen to you. Again, but I'm not going to go into now. That could, quite frankly, I suppose, be your mind helping you through these things. I don't know.
The commandments, James, for you, 10 Commandments.
That's just
not interesting.
Well, you shouldn't kill people, should you? You really shouldn't try shagging their wives.
Don't steal their ass.
It's all.
Ass. Sorry.
It's all relative. I honestly think that religions. Wasn't there a bit in the Bible? I don't know much about the Bible where supposed to said you should have no other gods but me, or no graven images, or something like that. I see all the churches, all the religions, Muslim, Christians, and all the forms of them as fairly evil and divisive. They are making people hate each other. It was only the other day that the old Pope, who apparently some believe is Christ's representative on earth, which I find,
sod.
No.
What are you talking about? No. It's
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. He's not a wicked old sod.
Oh, come on.
No, he's not.
He had that flipping...
He's caused more misery on the face of this planet than anybody in history.
Sorry, I'm with Alan on this one. If you need a supporter here, Alan, I'm entitled.
You
see, hang on, guys.
This proves... He is not
Michael,
an evil old sod.
How do you know? How do you know? You've never met him.
You're the one. You are the one.
Do you know?
You are the one who has made the assertion. So you're the one who has to justify.
No, I'm the one who said it.
But I agree with him. But
right. Well, in that case, let's have the evidence. Let's have the evidence that it's an evil
old
sod.
The evidence is right?
Yes.
That these people who put themselves up as leaders of churches have this ability to make people argue in just the way that we are now.
That's a perception, not evidence.
I'll give you evidence. And he has banned all those who believe in the faith that he represents from having any form of contraception. Therefore, he has made people bring children onto the face of this planet that they can't feed, can't look after, and for whom there's no health care. The world is overpopulated by Catholics because that wicked old sod won't let them use French letters.
Well, most of them do, I think. But I mean, that's... Listen,
yeah,
the whole...
let's just come back at that. That's not evil.
Oh, no, bringing children... What is evil?
Simply
if being cruel to children isn't evil,
we'd have to... First of all, there's motive.
Really?
And the man's motive is clearly not to do harm. Now, I'm not going to...
Do you think the man thinks now at his age? And I mean, he's got enough trouble trying to get from A to B, hasn't he?
He wasn't even a very good goalkeeper, was he?
You see, that might be an important point that you're making, James. Just because he's in his 80s doesn't necessarily mean that he's lost his marbles. He might have found something else.
Possibly. Anyway, I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. The whole thing, people who live by the words of something, or by this book, the Bible, or the Quran, that live their lives prepared to be killed for what this book says, and, more importantly, prepared to kill others for what is said.
Where did it come from, Jim? Where did the Bible come from? It's not just made up, surely.
Of course it is.
Oh.
Well, actually, yes, it probably is, and it's probably the Bible they use now.
Short stories.
In fact, there are a number
very good short stories.
A number of whatever they call the individual books in the Bible. I'm really quite sort of ignorant about the Bible. I really have no interest. But I mean, part of the Bible isn't even in.
It's a very dull read, and to save you the bother, the guy dies.
I'll tell you what, there's more.
Okay, there we are.
There's more sex and violence in the Bible than anything.
I've seen Ben-Hur, so I reckon I know the story.
Tommy.
I started reading the Bible, and I got to the bottom of the first page on Genesis, only to discover that. Did you know that days do not start at midnight and end at midnight. According to the Bible, days start at 6:30 in the evening. And this was
Just
how
after
little...
the BBC News.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
This was how little I knew what there was in the Bible, okay? But it's a fat book, and I prefer short books these days.
Tommy,
short
have you been to the
paragraphs.
Vatican?
Not yet, no.
I went to the Vatican. I went
that's
to the
got nothing
Sistine.
to
Yeah,
do
it
with
has.
it. No.
I went into the Sistine Chapel, looked at the ceiling, come out,
God.
and I felt good.
sorry.
I felt a presence
Now, look, you're not talking
around me.
Yeah, but you're not talking about religion now. You're talking about some of the most beautiful buildings in the world. I love architecture, and some of the most beautiful buildings in the world belong
churches.
to the organised churches. On my own land, and I'm sorry to sound like that landowner, I've got one of the most beautiful churches in the country. It seats 35 people, but it's actually on my own land. And what I mean by that is I can go there anytime I want, because half the churches in this country have to be locked, and so people don't steal from them.
Forgot you, Mr. Devon.
Hang on.
I've got Trotsky on my right, Stalin on my left.
Just a
Tommy,
minute.
I'm with you.
Just a minute. One of the most beautiful churches in the country is in York. And on the door it says, "This is the doorway to the kingdom of God. This is the doorway to heaven." And underneath it says, "This door is locked in winter."
Can I just get back to what we were talking about? Hang on.
I brought enough sticks to beat you. You
you-
don't need to give me
do
others.
you
You've got a
mind?
church on your land.
I have. Yeah.
Right.
James.
Enough said.
Thank you. If people in the world became spiritual in any way, shape, or form, and whether that meant becoming a Rasta or you know, if it turned you on becoming a Catholic or anything else, and you became a spiritual better person, that would be fine. But the fact is, it doesn't happen. And so many of these churches are divisive. I have one little story, and then I won't say any more about this. You got.
What are you going to do, phone a friend?
Yeah, Doris and Susan. No, sorry, no, lesbians, that doesn't work in the church. You've got Fred and Doris, a little old couple in their 90s. The pillar of the community. Okay? No, you can see them in the bungalow. Okay. They've never done anybody any harm in that. They take people in who need looking after. They raise money for the local charities. They're always there at the fetes. They do everything they can. And they're getting to the time when they don't have much left. And the local vicar, priest, whatever, goes along and says, "Now, listen, you've never been to church." I said, "Well, and he said, "Yes, but, you know, not much time left. If you've never been to church, you'll never get to the kingdom of God unless you believe. These people have behaved. They've obeyed all your commandments that are so important to you, Alan, and they have never done a thing wrong. And religious people will tell you that isn't enough to get you into the kingdom of heaven."
Sounds like posh and bet.
And then that's what worries me about religion.
Very quickly, very briefly, James, life after death. You don't believe in God. You don't believe in religion. What about when we snuff it? What about afterwards?
I don't know. I've spoken to millions of people over the years, as we all do, about this particular subject. Some things that happen to you make you believe, yes, there is a continuance of life, whether it's a floating around on a cloud, which I would have been quite happy with, you know, playing a harp, looking down at everybody else, and occasionally spitting on the people I didn't like, would have been fun.
Tommy, life after death?
I don't know.
Yeah, something survives. This interests me a lot because it's the most interesting thing there is. As simple as that, you know.
That's only because you don't want to die.
Well, none of us.
we're all going to die.
None of us.
But you're not. I mean, death is it. That's
But I
the
don't.
end
I
of
mean,
the line.
I don't actually think that you possibly know what goes on. But I think because of what is in you and the mind, which is completely unknown, there is. It's not. You know, we just inhabit this flesh and blood at the moment, don't we? I think there's something more.
Why does it intrigue you so much then, Tommy?
Doesn't it intrigue you?
Well, I just think it's the most important thing there is, that's all. And it will define all our lives. It does define our lives, and it will define our lives if anything survives. One of my 3 or 4 or 5 dearest wishes is that at sometime during the moment of death, it all becomes clear. And I have not been able to persuade myself, even though I've tried, that will be the case. But I do find that the more I read and the more I talk and the more I watch what goes on in the world, the more I begin to get the suspicion that maybe something does survive. After all, nature is very efficient. It wastes nothing. Nature wastes nothing.
People who die, you know, and when you get to that stage, there's an enormous sort of serenity and calmness that comes over you. It's almost as if you get to a situation where you're not frightened. You're not worried, you know, and if you've ever seen people in that near-death state, and if you've ever been in a situation where you thought that maybe that was your last, it's funny how things become very calm, not sort of manic and stress and everything else, they just become very calm.
What does that mean? I mean, why does that mean there's life after death?
Doesn't. I'm just saying that, it's something that if there is, we should know about it. Should we, really? If we knew it, we'd be diving off the bridge.
If there was, we would do about it. There is no possibility of life after death.
Really?
When you die, you are dead. That is it. There's a beginning and there's an end.
So when you
there's
die,
also a very nice middle, but I enjoyed the middle bit. I wasn't very conscious at the beginning. I'm enjoying the middle, and when it comes to the end, I'm sure other people will enjoy that.
And will you be buried in that beautiful little church on your land? Will you be buried under there?
No, I won't be buried in a church because I'm an atheist and I don't want to go to be buried in a church. I'd be buried in a plastic bag under a tree
Well,
somewhere.
why don't you knock down this church that's on your land then?
Because it's one of the most beautiful buildings in the country.
If I could, I think Mike's made two wonderful points in just now about life after death, and a while back when he was talking about the fact that he's constructed his own moral code, and I often find that atheists actually are better people, more honourable people, because they have done that. They've sat down and worked out for
themselves. There's a but coming, I can feel it.
No, there isn't.
There's not.
There really isn't. There's a however. The however is this. I'm coming now to believe. I used to believe, as you did, Mike, quite certainly.
Then you grew up.
How could they? No, and I'm not certain about what I believe now. But my feeling is and it's only a feeling, is that perhaps if you bear in mind the fact that nature wastes nothing and that everything has some kind of a substance. Your moral code, which may be based on something quite elusive that you yourself can't actually give shape to, even in your own mind and heart, that may have some kind of substance that we can't X-ray or we can't discover with a Kirlian photograph or whatever. We can't discover it under the surgeon's knife, but it's there. I don't think, I'm quite certain that when you die, what lives on is not something that looks like you or remembers that you used to like kippers for tea or anything irrelevant like that about what it was for you to be a human being and have all that minutiae. But I think there is a possibility somehow that there is something that lives in you that has an identity which again, you have a relationship with, and it has a substance, but not a substance as we would understand it, that might well survive when you shuffle off this mortal coal. And
the only way that can be
you
true.
You won't remember it.
No,
You won't remember being Mike Dickin.
The only way, no, I won't.
Because it didn't matter.
No, because
it didn't matter being Mike
won't
Dickin.
happen. The only way that I might live on in some shape or form, and all three of us here are fathers, so we know what that means, is maybe through the genes we passed on to our children. But no other way.
Really? Mike, this festive period, how do you feel about Christmas? Is it?
Well, I don't call it Christmas, I call it Yuletide. You see, it's a pagan feast. And it was around long before Christmas.
What a humbug!
No, it's true. I'm telling you the truth.
I hate Christmas.
You'll learn something.
I loathe it.
No, I don't believe it.
We don't call it Christmas, call it Yuletide.
I mean, for you, Alan, it's an excuse to drink even more than you normally drink.
If that's possible.
It just, I find people, particularly in offices, I haven't noticed around here, but people come in and leave a Christmas card on your desk that you see every day. I haven't bought one Christmas card this year.
Well, I've just been out and bought 10 because I saw 3 people on a bus stop this morning who hadn't got one, so I thought I better give them. It is utterly ridiculous, this passing on of Christmas cards.
That's shocking. It's a goodwill greeting. I can't believe it. No wonder they call you Grumpy Mike in there.
I'm not.
Yeah, you are. I can't believe it.
We all agree with this. It is a complete waste of money. I would rather give money to charity or to somebody who needed the money rather than buy those Christmas cards. If I like people, I'll ring them and say, hi, I haven't spoken to you for a year, and it's that time of year
Well,
where
hi, Merry Christmas, or...
And I'll just ring up and say, hi, we should get together, because you don't, do you? There's loads of people you suddenly think, and I would rather do it.
Tommy,
by phone.
You send out cards, don't you, Tommy?
Do you know, I'm stuck. I've never sent a Christmas card in my life.
Good man.
And of course now I can't. Because people are always waiting for you to change your mind.
Yeah.
And so
You've
I'm
never sent a Christmas card in
It
your life?
started about 2 years into college when I noticed that last year lots of people had sent cards and I hadn't, and Christmas was coming up again. So I decided it was a position I'd take. No, I
am astonished. My wife sends out 200 every year. I am astonished.
She's desperate for friends.
But I think
His wife is.
I really
She
believe that
never sees
Christmas
him.
is wonderful.
I tell you what, I have to own up in this case, because I have sent Christmas cards, even though I don't believe in Christmas and all that stuff. But I send them to people like Kelvin McKenzie, who owns this radio station, and the head of most broadcasting organisations, just in case they happen to remember me next time. When
Did
they
you
want
do that this
somebody
year?
Yeah, always.
I never do that.
I also sent the fairy round to give them a kiss.
What about a programmer? A new programme director? Does he not get one?
Well,
Which one's that?
Papa Smurf, as you call him.
Well, we have to wait and see if he survives a couple of weeks, Andy, first.
Can he read? Can he read?
Let me tell you, he was a journalist.
Was he?
He was.
When was that?
I've no idea.
That's a very, very loose term I find in this building,
On the Sunday Sport.
Oh, right.
Time Smart with Jeremy Nicholas in association with BT.
This one's dead noon.
A one-to-one guide for business, legal matters and the internet for beginners and seasoned cyberpunks.
Join me for the best of Time Smart. I'll be talking to Anita Roddick and finding out how a tractor made it from Land's End to John O'Groats fueled on just chip fat.
Reveal business success stories from office to empire. The mysteries of cyberspace unveiled.
Advice, answers, solutions to the world of business, technology, and e-commerce.
BT Time Smart.
Dickin versus Boyd versus Whale in a bite off your ear Clash of the Titans special on TalkSport.
So we're saying then, okay, so no Christmas cards. This is the Yuletide, you call
It's
it?
a pagan feast.
It's not Christmas.
And all the present giving actually dates back to when all the Druids used to meet in the woods, and they bring each other a present of some form of preserved food and and clothing, and they'd swap these presents and this preserved food. That's where the present giving comes from. It's none of this three wise men come over the bloody hill.
Melinda and I don't even have a tree up at home. I mean, if you've got kids and things like that, I think it's a different thing.
We have a tree.
But we haven't.
That's nothing to do with Christianity. That was brought in by.
No, I'm just talking about the
Prince
fact
Albert,
we haven't
wasn't
got.
it?
We haven't
Prince
got,
Albert brought that
I haven't
in.
got one of those either.
Can I explain one of the...
Prince Albert. Now, Melinda told me you had. She told me you'd often got it up.
Tommy?
Let me explain one of the delights of Christmas, which I think you two old humbugs will start to appreciate. It's this. Look, aren't our lives just so routine?
Oh, yes, I agree that we should
I haven't
change.
finished
Yeah.
yet, shut it. Week in, week out, the same old Monday to Friday and the same old Saturday, Sunday.
Oh, I don't know. I'm sorry, Tommy, but I'm not sure about that.
Alan can't usually remember yesterday.
One of the things that I like about Christmas is that it just throws everybody's petty little routines into such chaos.
Absolutely.
They just can't cope.
Totally agree.
And it's fantastic.
Yeah,
Who can't cook?
Yeah, but on the other hand,
forward to a few days off at home.
No,
Yeah,
well,
but-
we can do that anytime.
So,
On the
Alan,
other hand,
If I may, what I said was
Sorry.
that I'd give you one example of why I think Christmas is wonderful that these two guys might appreciate, because I think there's something of the anarchist in them. That's why I like snow. When it snows, what I like most about snow, apart from toboggans and snowballs, is the fact that it throws everybody's petty little routine lives
No, I'm
into
with
chaos.
Tommy
and
on
that's
that one.
fantastic.
I'm with Tommy on
So
that
am
one.
I. Totally.
Because they're stuck with
But I hate the fact that everybody goes away. I tell you what I really hate. I hate the fact that the boring prats who are all over the place, the suits that walk around, that as soon as Christmas comes, and the secretaries, it's an excuse for these people to behave appallingly in your way. You walk out to get a cab or something and some drunk vomits on you.
I'm going to start...
because you smack them, you end up being...
Let me start this one then, and I'll tell you what mine is. The daftest thing you've ever done, it was here actually, about 4 years ago. I photocopied my face. Don't ever do that.
Why?
We all photocopied our bum.
Yeah.
No, I haven't done mine.
No, don't photocopy your... Why? Because
Why
you
did
can't
you do
see
that?
for 3 days. Why? Because I was drunk and everybody else was photographing their backside.
Yeah.
And, you think, well, I'm Tommy Boyd, I'd better go one better.
Uh-huh.
So I've got at home this death mask of me on the photocopier, but the pain,
Really?
the fear, the agony, yes, don't ever do it. Don't ever put
I'll be
your
honest,
nose hard...
I thought about doing it. No. Bum nor face.
It's like saying don't slash your
How did we
wrist.
get
I've
on to
never thought about
Christmas
that.
anyway? Why are we talking about Christmas?
Because it is Christmas and it's
Oh,
the
yes,
reason that
that
we're here.
is.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I forgot.
Yuletide, if you don't mind.
Everybody
No,
has
gentlemen.
to change their life just because of... the other thing, but go back to religion. Why do people... First of all, there's nothing that can be totally proved about religion one way or the other. It could be a complete fairy story, probably is. Yet religion, even in the 21st century, has a powerful position in all our lives, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, but it's only in the history of the world, which is many, many millions of years, it is but a snap of the fingers.
Exactly, but you
Christianity will be
can't-
forgotten in 20, 30 years' time.
No, you cannot. Unfortunately, it won't. You can't open your shop on a Sunday if you wanted to in certain areas, or a supermarket because the church don't like it.
Well, they did have that power. I think they've lost most of that power now, because as we speak here on Christmas Day, there are shops open today.
And jolly good job too,
Did you see
because
Chariots of
afterwards
Fire?
we'll go out.
Chariots of Fire, fantastic movie.
What's he on about
And
now?
Lido, I'm talking about on a Sunday, what James has just said.
Oh, sorry,
When,
right, yeah.
when is it Lido, the
Yeah.
Scottish rugby
Well, it's
player, he
rather-
tells a little boy off for kicking the ball on a Sunday.
It's like our Olympic long jumper, isn't it? Jonathan, I've always got a bad ankle.
Edwards, you mean gold medalist?
Yeah. Wouldn't take part in athletics on a Sunday, and then all of a sudden they started paying him, so he He suddenly did.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Alan, you come from Scotland. I mean, the footballing tradition in Scotland with the Protestants and the Catholics is absolutely disgusting. I cannot believe
disgusting. It's the best derby in the world.
Disgusting. These people, offensive, the most offensive people I've ever... You know, you're a Scotsman who's done quite well for yourself. Where do you live? Exactly. Now,
East Anglia.
Exactly. Yeah, why do we have to put up with this disgusting behaviour from these people that we built a wall to protect ourselves from in the first place?
Have we left the chicken wire on Hadrian's Wall? They never got there.
I don't think on the religious bigotry in Scotland, especially in Glasgow, when you go to a Rangers Celtic game and you sing your songs, the game lasts an hour and a half, and you come out and you be civil again. What's the problem with that? I
haven't noticed that they are civil to each other afterwards.
I used to go and sing a few songs at a Celtic Rangers game, but when I came out, I didn't want to beat someone up.
Well, it's gone on from there then, hasn't it?
Yeah, a minority. I don't want to start talking about the England soccer club either.
Weren't the songs offensive to the other people? I mean, they were insulting whatever they believed in. They were intended to start a war. Football, actually, has only replaced wars. That's all it is. It's a battle. And that's all it's ever been. It's a battle between two opposing teams, and it's replaced war. That's all football is, I'm afraid.
But I'm sitting with three English guys here. Let's talk about the Crusades then, if you want.
Yeah, well, what about it? Me and Christian Roy chop your bloody head off.
Yeah,
that's what they did.
What's the difference? The Crusades are the England fans in Belgium and Holland. What's the difference?
So the Crusaders went galloping off all across the Palestine and the Middle East, and they said, are you a Christian? No. Off with his head. Are you a Christian? No. Off with his head. That's bloody Christian behaviour, isn't it?
Well, let's go back to our friends the Catholics then. Look at what they did during the Reformation.
Yeah.
Look at the disgusting, despicable things these so-called religious people did.
Oh, yeah, and King Henry VIII was a saint, wasn't he?
Henry VIII did a jolly good job. He got rid of the church, created his own church, the Church of England, so he could get his leg over more often.
The evil old git, as Mike calls him, the Pope in Rome says, no, you can't have another wife. He says, right, I'll start a new religion.
Exactly. Yeah, well, there you are. It shows how easy and how fickle it can be.
We could start our own religion tomorrow if we wanted to. In fact,
you've got a idea, is it? I've got my own church.
Very interesting idea.
We could be the three of us. I mean,
three wise men.
I don't know about him because he's Scottish. We'd have to consider that, but. I mean, we
can bring the wine.
Yeah, we could make him the first sort of, I don't know, the
altar boy,
the keeper of the altar or something. Yes,
Tommy, just to finish off in religion here, we've got two, as I say, Trotsky and Stalin. You know, religious over the years, it's done you a bit of good.
Yeah, I've got lots of interests, and I like my footy, like you do, and we all should. And I'm interested.
It's not going to become compulsory, is it?
But it is the most interesting thing. So I read, and look, in my pocket there now that I came up on the train with for this wonderful session is the latest religion that I want to find out about, which is Taoism.
It's what?
Oh, he's at that age. He's getting a bit trendy. Yeah. He's just worried about his youth as gone.
It's on my list. I've done Christianity because you get that, don't you? All right, and then I've done Buddhism because,
you had to in the 60s when you were celebrity and TV celebrity. I see. Yeah.
Islam, I've had a go at that, and that I found a little bit impenetrable.
You could have 3 or 4 wives.
Tommy, where'd you find the time to do all this?
Well, he does bugger all else.
Where do you find the time?
He travels on the train a lot.
He's been to Accra, the Great Wall of China.
Shinto is a very interesting...
I thought that was a game.
Well, Shinto is the most interesting religion of them all, and it's also the most unlikely. People who follow Shinto believe absolutely that you get 7 trips to Earth, 7 lives on Earth. No more, no less than that.
That's until Richard Branson runs it. None of them will turn up.
And it explains everything about the Japanese down the last few centuries where we have found ourselves astonished.
James, can you pass that round, please?
Another bottle of wine? Terrible. I tell you what, another religion. Guys, another religion, right? Another religion. Let's talk. I'm going to start with you, the country squire. Right. The abolition of fox hunting. Now, do I detect, or did I read somewhere that used to gallop around fields, mate?
Yeah, I did. I went on my first hunt when I was about 4 or 5 years old. I can't remember quite. And I hunted regularly up until a few years ago. Very rarely did I even see a fox. Well, probably, yeah. Fell off a few, which put me off. Very rarely did I see a fox. But I enjoyed the companionship. I enjoyed the chase. I enjoyed the dogs and the horses and the people I was with. A few years ago, I was aware that things were changing. Maybe 10 years ago, come think of it. When the Range Rover Brigade and their brand new barber coats and their green wellies and their scarves and hats started driving down from London and other cities, to a horse that had been kept in livery all week, was already tacked up and ready for them to get on. They had to be almost strapped onto the horse. They had no idea what they were doing. They had no idea of the countryside. They had no respect for the horse, the countryside, or anything else, or anything that went with it. And I realised that they were paying an absolute fortune for the privilege of doing this, and the hunts accommodated them. And they accommodated them because they needed the money. And so as long as they needed the money, the hunt changed entirely. Its character changed. From being the farmers and the people, the villagers that I grew up with, it became a social event for the Chelsea set, if you like. And I got sick to death of it. And then I saw the terrier man who went round blocking up the holes the night before to make sure the fox had no means of escape. And then they start digging them out. And then I found out about huntsmen who had actually been dropping foxes off out the back of a Land Rover to give the hounds something to chase. And I stopped my involvement altogether. In fact, I just had nothing to do with them at all. But unfortunately, my children had already begun hunting before I stopped, and they went on because they enjoyed the chase. It was a lovely thing to do with the ponies and over the fields and over the fences. And before anybody says, why don't you go drag hunting, let me just put that one to rest. The reason that people can't go drag hunting is because farmers only allow their land to be used in order that the foxes will be chased away or killed. And in consequence, they won't allow you to go galloping over their fields if you're doing a dragging bag of aniseed.
So in the beginning, Mike, you grew up, it was pleasant,
it was what
lovely.
we did. It was what we did. I never questioned it.
As far as you were concerned, it was natural, but as you say, suddenly the Chelsea set came down, and, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm a Glasgow boy, I'm an urban lad, but when the fox goes to ground, that should be it. You
go and chase another one. And that's the way I grew up, and you chase another one. And the only one you ever caught, I know how James feels about this, and I have a great respect and sympathy for his view, but I would like to just throw a few facts in which may persuade him to think again, slightly. The only fox you ever catch is the halt, the sick, or the lame, because that is the one that kills the sheep. All the others live off the wildlife that they're quick enough to catch. But the old dog fox that has been driven away from his own patch by his own sons, and they're driven away every year, they're driven away another mile or two by their own sons. They're very territorial. The old dog fox that's been ill, it's lame, it's sick, it can only feed on one thing, and that is an almost inanimate object, which is a newborn lamb. Or they can get into a chicken run where the chickens are already captive and kill the lot. And I've had that happen. They killed the lot and never took one. So they didn't do it for food, they did it for the fun of killing. The only fox that the hunt ever catch in fair circumstances is the halt, the sick, and the lame. And thereby you are maintaining the breed, because the breed will consequently get stronger as a result of that process. But when you block up the holes and you make sure the fox has nowhere to run, then you might get the young father, you might get the young vixen, you might even get the cubs. And that's where I've got this dichotomy. I am pro the thoughts of hunting as I understood it as a kid and even as an adult. But I am so anti what happens now. I would never join the anti-hunt league because they're some of the cruelest people on the face of the earth. I've been on a horse when somebody's rolled an orange under the horse's hooves with 6-inch nails sticking through it. Now, if that's animal lovers, give me a break.
What'd you do? Did you jump off and kick
I would like to have done.
Slap?
I would like to have done, but I didn't see who did it. There were 60 horses in a pub car park, and these idiots came in and rolled these oranges across the cobbles when they had 6-inch nails sticking out of them. Now, one of those horses that stood on one of those nails, that's a dead horse. There's no cure for that.
Really?
I actually, I hate to say this, but I agree 100% with what Mike says. When I go off on one about hunting, it's for the reasons that Michael says. But I left London in the 70s and I went to live in Yorkshire, and I lived there for 20 years out in the middle of nowhere. My wife had a horse. My eldest son's first job was as a gamekeeper, believe it or not. And we had ferrets, and I used to, and I don't want you to laugh, but it's quite
No,
true.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, I used to keep birds of prey, and we would go out with the ferrets and we'd flush out a rabbit and the bird would go after it. And a number of years we used to do this. But it was a thing to do to appreciate being in the cave. It was not a spectator sport. And one of the things that annoys me more about hunting than anything else are the people who I have witnessed who get out of their Range Rovers, put their deck chairs and their little tables up, put out their picnics at a vantage point where they can watch all this going on. They never see what really happens. It is these people are now breeding foxes to hunt because they have desecrated the fox population. Now,
actually, more are killed on the road than ever killed by the hunt. But
there is no need for the hunt. I think it'd be I think the sort of people who now go hunting are completely brainless. Most of them, they don't even know what happens at the sharp end anyway. You've got these ruthless, nasty, common, thuggy people who go around digging out the foxes, flinging them around. They dig out badgers occasionally because they're gormless. They're just completely and utterly gormless. There's no doubt that fox hunting was something that kept the communities together, was something that actually did help the fox population. That's all gone. That doesn't exist now. And, farmers, farmers will do anything for money at the moment. I'm pretty sure if a drag hunt said, listen, we'd like to pay you a couple of £1,000 for hunting across your land, most of their fields are going to be set aside anyway at the moment. They'll probably say yes. And I mean, these anti-hunt people, the hunt saboteurs, these people need to be treated like terrorists. They need to be. Look, I've seen them throwing things at horses, hitting horses. I've actually seen my wife whack with one of these, the long sort of, the whips they use in schooling or dressage or whatever it is, right around the head of this. Well, never mind. I can't. I get so excited about it. I can't. Yeah, sort of. Who was being really. He had no idea what he was doing. Oh, save the animal and all this sort of thing. And all the time, he's frightening these horses. He's putting these horses under great pressure. And she'd moved her horse back into him and squashed him up against a wall for a while.
Okay. Guys, we're going to go to Tommy in a sec. Hold that thought. We'll continue this discussion after the TalkSport news.
On 1089 and 10:53 a.m. TalkSport. On the hour, sports update and headline news from the Sky News Centre.
It's 1 o'clock, the sports headlines with me, Russell Barter. Johnson set to lead England in Six Nations. SFA said to hear O'Neill appeal, and Reigns the pits for Pittman. Details on all those stories after the latest news and weather, read by Barney Burnham.
A man has died after falling from the undercarriage of a British Airways jumbo taking off from Gatwick Airport en route for Mexico. The main runway was closed for a short time and flights were diverted to the emergency runway. Mike Ingle is the airport's duty manager.
It was about 9:15 this morning as the aircraft rotated on its departure from Gatwick. What was described as an object was seen falling from the aircraft. An inspection of the runway by our operations department revealed the object to be, in fact, the body of a man.
The Queen Mother has made her second public appearance in 2 days, attending church at Sandringham. She was escorted into the church on the arm of Prince Charles and later delighted the crowd by walking down the steps to accept flowers and gifts from well-wishers. The Archbishop of Canterbury has entered the controversy over asylum seekers by drawing parallels with events surrounding the Nativity. In his Christmas Day's sermon at Canterbury Cathedral, he told worshippers that the Nativity was an example of the problems encountered by people as they flooded into an unwelcoming place, as with asylum seekers in the Channel ports of East Kent.
Local people find it difficult to reconcile the duty of hospitality with the prospect of finite resources being overburdened by the sheer numbers of new arrivals.
Railtrack has begun a massive repair program to get its network back to normal by the new year. Thousands of engineers started work soon after the last train on Christmas Eve. TalkSport weather. A cold Christmas day throughout Britain. Snow in parts of Scotland and northern England. Wet and windy in southern England.
TalkSport. Sports update.
Martin Johnson will lead England's rugby union side in this season's Six Nations Championship. Coach Clive Woodward says Johnson's superb form in the autumn secured his place as skipper. The Leicester second row led England to consecutive test wins over Australia, Argentina and South Africa. But Woodward says he'd have no problem with former captains Lawrence Dallaglio and Matt Dawson leading the side at some time in the future. The Scottish Football Association will hear an appeal by Hibs tomorrow morning. Officials at the Edinburgh club will protest against the sending off of John O'Neill in Saturday's match against Rangers. He was dismissed for kicking out at Claudio Reyna. If the appeal is successful, O'Neill will be able to play in tomorrow afternoon's derby with Hearts. Also in Scotland, Argentine star Claudio Caniggia wants to extend his contract with Dundee. The former World Cup forward has revealed he'll discuss the situation with manager Ivano Benetti in the new year. His present deal expires in the summer. There's mixed news for the country's racegoers heading for Boxing Day meetings. Huntingdon's passed inspection, but the card at Ayr is under threat because of frost. There'll be an inspection there tomorrow morning. The cancellations have hit trainer Mark Pittman especially hard. He was due to have runners at tomorrow's cancelled meeting at Towcester, and it means that he's facing a Christmas without racing for the first time in his career, and that in his first season in charge of the stable after replacing his legendary mother, Jenny. He says the weather has been a problem all season.
It's played havoc with the racing. We've lost our end of meetings. I had 3 runners at Towcester. That's all been washed out. And my 1 runner at Kempton's Lane. So for the first time that I can ever remember, I shan't be racing on a Boxing Day.
That's all for now. Our next update's in an hour.
TalkSport presents the UK's most irrepressible presenters in a Christmas Clash of the Titans.
TalkSport would like to point out that the following feature contains some pretty strong opinions, some outlandish conjecture, and 4 nuts, including 1 cheery wee-faced Brazil nut.
Mike Dickin, Tommy Boyd, James Whale and Alan Brazil here on the Clash of the Titans. Now, we're talking fox hunting. Tommy, you didn't really get a chance to get a word in there with the guys. Mike, he's grown up on farmland, the community, very much part of it, disgusted how it's going at the moment. James, he thinks a lot of them are thugs, the way fox hunting has never been the same for many, many years, according to James. Tommy, how do you feel about it?
Well, I have to say this. I'm for the abolition of fox hunting. I hope it happens in the new year, in the new parliament, and that the thing dies a death. For purely very selfish reasons, which is that I don't want to have to host one more phone-in or phone call about this appallingly overblown, magnified out of all proportion, minute social problem. That's all it is. There are 200 hunts. They've got about 70 or 80 people. They kill, I don't know, a fox every month or something.
Yeah, not many.
As Mike said a moment ago, quite rightly, far more die underneath our juggernauts than at the hands of the hunt. What I think is important is that people recognise 2 things. 1, people who go hunting love it. It's got nothing to do with controlling the countryside. They love it. And similarly, people who go out sabbing love it. And it's as much a sport for them, a kind of a blood sport for them.
If it's banned, they're both going to be very sad people.
They're both going to have to find something else.
Well, the one thing I'm surprised, Tommy, you say it's going to be you want to see it banned, and I fully appreciate and endorse your reason, and that is I don't want to ever host another phone.
It's when you see on the screen, Madge,
because
in
God
Kent,
knows. I mean, the years
fox hunting, your heart just, goes
Why are
through the
these
floor.
anti-hunt people so dull? Because you so much want to be on their side, yet they're so appallingly dull.
I know. My brother is a hunt sab. And one day he came back, there was a family party, so I was at home, and he drove into the drive, and he said, been out sabbing, and I said, great, did you save a fox? He said, no. I went and had a look at his...
I killed a couple of horses.
Well, no, it's this. I want to ask you guys on this one. No, actually, I'm sure the orange thing happened, Mike, but generally speaking, they do care about animals. They really do. But there was this, you see, on the front of his car that he had used to drive 60 miles to and from this hunt, right, to try and save a fox. Right? There were plastered the dead bodies of
tell me
thousands.
Oh, Tommy, don't.
Of insects.
Yeah.
Now,
if insects were furry and ran about in the we would be mad.
So I asked him the question, and this was 10 years ago, and I still haven't had a decent answer from him. How many insects
have you killed?
Make a fox?
Yeah.
It's a sizes thing.
Yeah.
I've been big game. I've been out doing on safaris, and everybody in the truck, the sealed truck, is going, "Oh, aren't those giraffes wonderful? Because they're big. Oh, the elephants, look." And we do this day in, day out. I was getting bored. Then one day a moth flew in, right? Beautiful moth it was. Wonderful colours. Yeah, you got it. They called for the guy with the gun, because we had a guy with a gun just in case a lion got into the truck, okay? They called for the guy with the gun to kill the moth. And he did. He came down and he crushed this beautiful moth.
Yeah.
It's a sizes thing.
No,
It's the
you're
same
right.
with whales. We want to
there
save
is-
whales because they're bloody big.
But there is another thing, isn't there? And
tuna.
With regard to your own wish for abolition, and as I said, I endorse it. I never want to host another radio phone concerning fox hunting. You're on a no-win situation, whatever you do.
But if they ban it, guys...
But hang on, let me finish this point. You love horse racing, I love horse racing. I think James is the anti it now and tries to make a fortune at it. But
I like
there would be no there would be no national hunt racing if we lose hunting.
That's just not true.
I don't because most, if not all, national hunt horses learn their tricks and their trade.
Yeah, but Mike, if you abolish it, I think they'd still learn the tricks on the racecourse rather than out in the woods and the fields.
If it came down to it, the bookies would set up their own stables.
Tell me, guys, politically, right? We hear that most of the Labour MPs are going to vote for the ban. Do they care, these Labour MPs, or is it a case of votes?
MPs generally only care about getting back in again. And, the only thing that makes me really... I hate the sort of the glee on the faces of these people who go hunting. because, when they sit around looking, because something's losing its life. As much as I would, if I see a worm on the pavement, I have to pick it up and move it. I don't like the idea of worms being squashed under feet or people just willy-nilly.
I've been laughed at for doing that.
Yeah,
I don't care.
No, I don't either.
Really? So would you really?
Don't take the pee out of us,
no,
you.
I'm not
Don't you start having a go at us, Brazil.
I seriously do, and I would, if I see a snail in the road where I'm about to drive, if I see it in time, I will stop picking it up and put it on the roadside.
I do the same with the hedgehog, but the other day I upset people in the bus passing. I was in Yorkshire, and there was a rabbit, I say the other day, it's August, there was a rabbit severely with myxomatosis sitting by the side of the road. They're blind, they can just shuffle around, and I had to get out and just bang it over the head.
Yeah.
Because some people in the car had a go at me. I had to go back, they didn't do it again.
Well, this is the ignorance we're talking about, isn't it?
But how do you know it didn't have a cold?
Yeah.
Tommy, and
it hasn't got a cold.
Tommy,
James has got it in the book. Got
leave
the 3
that,
eye on
Tommy. Leave that for your listeners. Don't try that
I
on
would,
me.
I would really worry.
It hasn't got a cold
That
now,
my
anyway.
diagnosis. You're not a vet. You're not a vet.
I tell you what, I'm keeping
I'm
keeping my pets away from Emmerdale Farm over here, eh?
Yes.
James Harriet.
Yeah, I think Mike will back me up on this. If you know anything about anything, you will know when a rabbit has myxomatosis and not a cold. Don't be ridiculous.
No, it is cold, but it hasn't got a cold.
Exactly.
No,
exactly.
Myxomatosis is perfectly obvious to anyone with half an eye, and Tommy's got more than half an eye, and that was
and he was trying to wind us up. Yeah. I think, by the way, we must say that stag hunting should have been banned a long time ago.
Agreed.
I've watched stag hunting. Yeah. It is atrocious. It's not a quick kill by any means, and it is
inexcusable.
It's unnecessary. You can shoot a stag quite cleanly, and people do a lot of the time.
And you can shoot the right one as well. I agree with you entirely on that.
Mate, did you do a lot of shooting as a kid? I went pheasant shooting once, and I couldn't do it. I ended up shooting at trees and stuff like that. I just couldn't do it.
I've got guns now, and I shoot quite a lot, but the only thing I shoot is made of china or clay. I do a lot of china and clay shooting, trap shooting.
I think it's China.
Yeah, clay pigeons. I'm sorry. He's a townie, you see.
Clay pigeons.
Yeah, I've never heard them called.
He's dragged up.
China's what you get in the Ladro factory, isn't it? And you put it on your mantelpiece.
Skeet shooting, they are made of china.
Are they really?
Well, it's a form of china. You wouldn't know, because English china clay, of course, comes from Cornwall. It doesn't
and
look...
I suppose you're having to go... Just talking about stag shooting, I suppose it's the jocks who are getting all the blame again, isn't it?
Just because you spend your time in London's posh hotels being drunk and loud, don't think that makes you an honorary Englishman yet.
No.
James, the last time I walked in tram, I heard you before I see you. I thought, hold on a minute.
Nobody
James
will
is
know
in the corner.
what
There he
you're
was,
talking about.
having his breakfast, 3 o'clock in the morning, bottle of champagne and bacon and eggs. Tommy, have you ever shot anything?
No, I haven't. I had a friend who was shot dead, and that sticks in my mind more than
That's brought the conversation to a close, hasn't it?
Gun, shot dead in New York.
Yeah.
It was funny. It wasn't funny. I was working with the chap in one of those summer camps, and we shared a cabin, and we each had 6 lads that we, go camping with and stuff. And one weekend he decided to take the weekend off, and he went into New York. And on the Monday, the chief counsellor stood up in front of everybody, and he said, okay, announcements. He said, it's wet, so there'll be no basketball, and blah. He said, oh, and Mike won't be coming back to us. He was shot dead in New York on Sunday night. And I was absolutely gobsmacked. A lad from London. And there were youngsters there, aged 12 and 13 and 14, who'd been given this news in this way. And I didn't know what to do or what to say, or whether I was going to have to do some counselling in the literal, sense of the word, or what. But another counsellor was standing next to me, just nudged me and just kind of went, well, if you go to New York on a hot, sticky weekend, what do you expect? And
I've been to New York. I never found it to be violent, to be honest with you.
No, but what I think we're talking about guns here at the moment. I don't know how we've got around to talking about guns.
No, I don't, because Alan Brazil... Do you mind if I come over and get the...
No, please do.
The wine. No, I was asking you, Mike Schutz.
Yes.
But Claire China says, I went once and forget it. I could not. I couldn't kill him.
We don't need guns. I don't want to fall out with Mike about this. I know they're handsome things and they have a fine heritage, but I think we should just bend the barrels of the whole damn lot.
Yeah, but you mentioned New York. We're nothing like America, are we, Mike?
No, actually, if you want the figures, which I checked only very recently, per capita, London is a far more violent city than New York.
Yeah, I can't believe that. I cannot believe that. I honestly, nonsense.
Well, the street crime figures published by the New York Police and published by the Metropolitan Police per capita show.
You know why, don't you?
New York is nowhere near as violent as London.
Because we've got all the police trying to find motorists speeding in the middle of the night, in the middle of the day, and not getting on with hunting crime.
I tell you what, James, I know this is your pet hate, but I have to back James up here. I borrowed a friend of mine, right? I went to football, a DB7, I'm coming down the A1, 1:45 in the morning, seriously.
145 miles an hour.
I was a bit tired, so I was doing the normal, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, flashing lights. Now, on early hours of the morning, and I can't believe it, I thought. Check my lights were on, so I pull over. Oh, the arrogance of this policeman was unbelievable.
That's the worst part.
Oh, he says...
what were you driving, sorry?
It was an Aston Martin DB7, but not fast.
Well, so what?
Down,
I mean,
you
drive one, Tommy.
Not mine. Not mine, Tommy. A friend of mine.
I'd nick one if I was a copper if I got the chance as well.
Anyway, he pulls me over, right, and he says, what was it? He said, Damon. He called me Damon. All right, Damon? You know, Damon Hill. I'm like, oh, yeah, very funny. You know, I want to get home. What's the problem?
Oh, they modernised. That used to be Sterling Moss all the time.
So he said, you're all over the road. I said, don't be silly. I said, I may have moved my left hand to change the tape. I wasn't all over it. He said, have you been drinking? I thought, oh, here we go. So he said, follow me. I said, I haven't been drinking. He said, follow me. So I sit in his little car, and you know what he said to me? He says, here you go, you've obviously used one of these before. That's what he says to me as he passes me the breathalyzer.
You want to take his number at that particular point and make a complaint
you are out of order. I says, there's an old lady's getting mugged at the moment. You should be doing something, or breaking
Alan,
some
what
shots.
James said is so right. I mean, I think we all feel this. I mean, I'm not quite sure about Tommy, but there is undoubtedly a vendetta against the motorist at the moment by the police. It's been getting worse and worse. It's encouraged by this particular government, who are anti-car. The police are anti-motorist. The vendetta is from the young, spotty, nylon-shirted copper who has no chance of getting a job anywhere else. He wouldn't even get a job as a bloody window cleaner, but because there is no qualification anymore for getting into the police, if you can walk and talk and stand still for 5 minutes, you've got the job.
Mind you, if someone breaks in your house, you need them. But you do need
They never turn up when you're breaking the house. You make if your house is broken into, they phone up and they give you a crime number. They say, we'll come round in the next fortnight. You do 71 miles an hour on the motorway, there's 500 of them.
You know why they like it? They like it because... it boosts the clearing up of crime.
It counts as a crime.
No, I've just been told here we've got to get off this subject.
Tommy's... Well,
we
stay on this subject. Just quickly, there's a lot in what you guys are saying, but one perspective on this that doesn't really get very much attention, I don't think, is the amount of carnage that there is on our roads. Every time there's a train crash, it dominates the news for a couple of weeks. But I think more people are killed on our roads in the course of an average week than have died in all the train crashes that we've had in this country for about the last 10 years.
There's some mad drivers out there.
The point being, people drive very badly.
Yeah, well, keep the old women off the flipping roads, keep the caravans off the roads, keep the people in the crappy old cars off the roads, and leave Alan in his DB7.
Not my DB7, my friend Roger's.
Mike and I in our Rolls Royces give us the space on the roads that we need.
No,
you know the worst drivers? Women with kids in the cars.
And old men with pork pie hats and a pipe.
Flat caps. Old men with flat caps.
Yeah.
And sales guys with their suit jackets.
Anybody vising a Vauxhall Vectra.
Travel through 2000 with the best sporting moments of the year. From the Olympics to rugby, racing to golf, and from tennis to football. The biggest names in sport take you through their most memorable and challenging sporting moments this year. The TalkSport Sports Review of the Year. New Year's Eve from 6 p.m. only on TalkSport.
Clash of the Titans
on TalkSport.
Gentlemen, what do you fancy next? We're going to talk capital punishment or equality for gays. What do you fancy?
Well, equality for gays is a non-starter. That's
Capital
totally rubbish. How can you be equal if you're gay?
Go on then. Why not? Why not?
Of course you can't. You can't be equal if you're gay. You're obviously...
You can be equal. What do you mean you can't be equal?
Nonsense. You are intellectually challenged.
Listen.
Being homosexual is listed by the World Health Society as a mental illness.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Well, it is.
No, you're trying to be outrageous now.
I'm telling you the truth.
You know it is on documented evidence, the police have it, that you are bisexual.
Oh,
you
Dave,
know that.
Why did you say that? You promised me last night. You promised me, and I told you I wouldn't wear that number again if you did.
I tell you what, I cannot understand why anybody gets upset about anybody else's sexuality. I really can't. What a waste of time.
Yeah, James, can I ask you, you go in a club, you go in a bar, two guys snogging, kissing each other, Does that not sort of, does that not want you to walk out of there?
What is wrong with you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I am sorry. No, not for me.
You used
Another
to be a
bar,
footballer.
please. Yeah, but that's different.
You are.
And where do you see most men kissing each other? On a bloody football field.
Exactly. Now, I know, Alan, because we've talked about this before, is got a problem. But haven't you got any gay friends?
No.
Or don't you know it?
No.
And
I know him.
if your son told you that he was gay, how would you react?
Get yourself a flat.
No, you wouldn't.
No, because I've got 3 daughters. I've got 3
So,
daughters.
is it all right for your daughters to be lesbians?
Oh, please, James, don't ruin my Christmas.
Why?
Oh, no.
Don't you fantasize yourself about a little lesbian action, 2 women and you? You, a red-blooded heterosexual man, you'll fantasize about that. I know the rest of us do.
I'll be honest with you, that doesn't do a lot for me. Tommy?
You lying little
Tommy,
help. I'm pleased that we've won the argument about capital punishment. People who always found it ludicrous, offensive, disgusting, as my 13-year-old puts it. Disgusting.
How did we get onto that from him being gay?
Well, I've got a good memory. My memory goes back at least 3 minutes to when he said, "Do we want?"
Well,
the question was, "Do we want to discuss gays or capital punishment?"
It means lesbians and gays should be strung up. That's what it means.
I'm pleased that the abolitionists have won the capital punishment debate. I don't know if anybody around this table...
No, I'm totally anti your view. I'm afraid I'm totally pro-capital punishment.
Well, you've lost.
I used to be anti-capital
You might just as well hope that Germany beat England in the 1960s.
No, but Tommy, this is...
Well, as far as I'm concerned, they did.
Over. You lost.
This is serious.
It's finished.
Yeah. This is
it's
a serious
never
point.
coming back.
I used to be anti-capital punishment. And I'm still anti-capital punishment for murder because, somebody who's going to commit a murder isn't going to think of the consequences. And I think some people who've committed some murders, for whatever reason, the keeping Reggie Cray in prison until the end of his days was unforgivable when paedophiles are running around the streets after about 5 or 10 years. But, if we were to top a couple of these spotty little arrogant youths who think they can nick anybody's cars, go into their houses, nick their videos and everything else, if we hung a few of their spotty little carcasses in front of filling stations around this country, they'd soon stop.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen, is it? But
it might do if they don't stop. Now, I'm getting sick and tired of this sort of youth crime.
I would happily have the death sentence for confirmed paedophiles, for rapists, and for those who did premeditated murder. I would have that as an option for the judge in the case. It doesn't mean to say that every one of them will get hanged. It doesn't mean to say that everyone will get topped, whichever method you choose.
And it should be
but
public
it means
as
it
well.
should be there as an option.
What's the point of doing it privately? If you want it to be, do it publicly.
Draw a bigger
television.
Well, James, what you said earlier, what you said earlier was interesting about, for instance, hanging a few people, deterrent and all that. Now, the other side of this, the other side of the coin here is someone like Rose West, according to stats, she's been in jail for something like 5 years now. Now, it's unlikely she's going to get out, just like Reggie Cray, okay? It's unlikely, poor fella. Not poor fella, he deserved to go to jail, but not for that length of time. Now, someone like Rose West, if she lives to the age of 80, according to the stats here, it's going to cost the British taxpayer close to £1.5 million.
But Rose West you can't put Rose West into the same thing as Reg Cray. I mean, it's a different, it's the same with Myra Hindley. I don't think Myra Hindley should ever be let out. I don't think she'd be a threat to anybody now. And I don't think she should have been executed either, because had she been executed, she would not now be a deterrent, possibly, to people behaving in that way. Because she's still there, we still talk about her. But, I go back to what Mike said about rape. And the recent worrying figures about the amount of women who cry rape. And then when a man has been prosecuted to a certain extent, he's been in the papers, everything else, and then they find out that no rape happened. I think we have to be careful about this.
Of course you have to be careful. I said absolutely proven. And in the cases that you've mentioned, thank goodness the evidence is there. To retract the original conviction. You wouldn't hang someone on the same day you convicted them. You'd have to retry the case. You'd have to do it with every bit of evidence possible.
But then we might get into a situation in America where it's used as a political football. Look what George W. Bush has. He's topped more people apparently in Texas than anybody else.
Yeah. But if someone goes out to commit murder, goes into school and blows away a few kids, for me, what's the problem?
If
just hang them. Or put them in the chair.
If
Bang,
you're
gone.
talking about
I have no problem with that.
All right, if you're talking about the smoking gun, and that is, the way of describing someone actually caught in the act, where there is no doubt as to their guilt, as far as I'm concerned. I don't care how you kill them, just kill them.
Yeah.
But where there is doubt, then there must be justice. I'm a great believer. It's the one thing I believe in above all else, justice. Justice to me does include the death penalty being available to top those and remove those from society, those who are so hideous in every respect of their being that by them drawing breath, I feel ill.
Tommy's shaking his head here.
As something of a historian, I just
who are
remind you that you're living in the only country that I know that hangs people who are radio presenters because they just don't like their show.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh. Well,
that was William Joyce, wasn't it? Do you remember? They didn't like his show. He was a talk show host.
Is that why you shaved so they get the rope around your neck?
No, again, Mike, you've lost. It's over. We're not going to hang.
There's no winner or loser.
Again,
My view does not change because the majority of people appear to disagree with me.
European Union.
Actually, the majority of people do agree with you. That's a little frightening in a way, because I think if people, this is a worry. This is going back to the police, not wishing to be too big a knocker of the police, because I think we used to have the best police force in the world. I certainly don't think we have it now. And I don't think, I'm worried about the situation, like the situation not long ago where the police shot dead a guy for carrying a chair leg wrapped up in London. Yeah. I'm worried about the state of training of our police, and I'm worried about the sort of evidence that over the years has proved to be completely wrong. And people who've done 17, 20 years in prison proved that they didn't commit the crime. This recent guy with a mental age of, I think, 11, who's been in prison for 27 years for a murder that's almost now certain that he didn't commit. They've actually now keeping him in again over this Christmas for another year or until the case comes up, because the judge didn't have the papers in front of him in time, because the police hadn't got, or whatever. I think, somebody's actually got to take our system of law and order in this country in hand.
Well, get rid of the jury system to start with, because the most flawed part of any legal system I've ever discovered anywhere is the jury system that we seem to rely on in this country to prove someone's guilt or innocence. 12 good men and true. You have a look out the window. Look at the first 12 people you see. Get on a bus, the first 12 people you see. Do you want those to decide on your guilt or innocence?
Well,
the only people who are available for juries are so thick.
There's a little bit more selection goes into it.
No, I don't think so.
Well, a little bit more. No, well,
you can get out of being on a jury like that.
If you're not clever enough to get on a jury, you're not clever enough to take part in any decision
European
making.
Union, forget capital punishment. If you're part of that, forget it. Yeah?
European Union.
Sorry, what are we talking about?
on European Union?
Capital punishment. If you're part of that European community, the capital punishment doesn't exist.
We're not going to be part of that European community for much longer, Alan. Don't try and wind me up.
Don't frighten us to death.
For goodness sake, the sooner we get the foreigners back in their countries and leave us alone, the better.
Absolutely. Let's get back to trading with the people we actually speak the same language as.
I have come up with an idea, and I don't know if I share it with all of you, my friends, of a new political party. And I launched the idea on my show about a year ago, called the English-Speaking Alliance. This will be available to all English-speaking countries in the world. Doesn't matter what colour, what religion, anything else. If you speak English, and to join the English-Speaking Alliance, you would then have, your country would have to adopt English as its first language.
How well do you have to be able to speak English? How well?
Well, most people have English as a second language.
How well do you have to speak it in order to join this alliance?
Well, as well as
your main language.
Would Alan get in for a start?
There's a couple of pints of scrumpy. You want to hear him try and talk English?
No, I don't think accents are a problem, but I think English. English is the language, and I can't wait for the French to have to admit that English will be the language of the world.
It already is.
The language
of the world. 95% of all fax messages and all emails are in English. All air traffic control is in English. And 99% of the world's business dealings are done in English.
And in this country, we still waste precious education time in teaching our children a language they won't need.
I never realised that you and I are going to agree on so much. The one thing I've got against my children's education is that some silly person is trying to teach them French, German and Spanish.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
What a waste of time.
There's nothing wrong with that. When your children go abroad, whether it's to ski in the French Alps, beautiful countryside.
They speak English.
No. They speak English
better than you do.
It's better for the brain. They can chat in the foreign dialect. Brilliant. No. Tommy.
Yeah, I tend to agree that English is going to be the language that about a third of the world is going to be speaking in about 10 years' time. We mustn't forget the Chinese.
Why not?
Well, okay.
But they all speak English as a second language now in China. No, they do. That is prerequisite. They have to learn English in schooling.
What we need to do, certainly we could talk about the curriculum, but what we do need to do is to teach English to our children as if it were a foreign language.
Properly, absolutely right,
So,
Tommy.
yeah.
I hate to agree with you.
So that... yes.
Really,
You mean get rid of estuary English?
Yeah.
You mean you get rid of
Well, no,
free radio stations in London already?
No. You get rid of the grunting scenario of kids.
What it will mean is that our youngsters will be able to speak two languages, just like the French and the Germans who can speak their own language and English. Our youngsters will speak their own language and English.
That's a very good idea.
Hold on a minute.
That's a very, very good idea.
They'll be able to speak their own language and English.
You speak your own language.
I'm speaking English.
Badly.
No, I'm speaking English.
Badly.
Globish.
Globish. Do you think I want to go and order a nice meal like William Shakespeare? You know, I'm not
because he
for
was
that.
a brummie. I mean, William Shakespeare is spoken in these very fine tones, but actually William Shakespeare was a brummie. And if he'd have ordered the foreign meeting, he'd say, "Where's the nearest bus?"
Oh, dear.
No, Tommy's got a very good point we should maybe explore because, you know, one of the problems that a lot of education doesn't now, we do such a good job doing talk shows because people learn how to use their voices and learn how to speak and how to put their points and everything else, which nobody else seems to show as any importance whatsoever. Nobody's grammar is ever corrected. Nobody is you know, told that they're speaking rubbish because they're sort of slang.
I won't allow people to say basically.
Well, we all do those sort of things. I mean, but usually when we're thinking for the right word to say. But I mean, it's just a sort of... sorry, what did you say?
I must admit, though, grammar is very important. I think back to my schooling, I think... I really do wish I'd spent more time in grammar. I really do. Tommy?
Yeah, I mean, I was stuck with teaching English for a period of time, and both in this country and in the United States.
You've done it all, haven't you?
Could you take Alan aside later?
Unbelievable.
What I always found was that it's important, first of all, that what the person is trying to say is worth hearing. So that's the first thing that you have to encourage. It doesn't matter too much.
We'd all be out of work if that was true.
That's true enough, Mike. True enough.
Where are you from, mate? Where are you from?
No, truly, if half the people that call our programmes are worth listening to, it'll be a miracle.
But only the people on my show are worth listening to. I don't, people who come on my show worth listening to. The others we just cut off. Unlike the BBC, who let every Tom, Dickin... Well, no, they don't. They have about 15 stupid women deciding who should go on the air. There's no freedom of speech with the bloody BBC. Aren't we going to have a go at the BBC?
Yeah, what else are we going to have a go at while we're here? Because we nearly finished our pudding now.
And there's only about 2 more bottles of wine left.
And that's sweet.
No, on a serious note, guys, I do. I know James is very strong and Mike is. I want to hear what Tommy thinks, on this gay rights equality for gays, on a serious note. How do you feel about that, Tommy?
I just don't have any problem with it. It must be a nightmare to discover your sexuality, because none of us choose it. It's given. I don't know how. It's an interesting one, that. To wake up and discover that you're not what's, regarded as the norm. Must be even worse. For example, we touched on paedophilia. What a nightmare it must be. And how much the people who find themselves in possession of this ludicrously tragic, awful sexuality, how much they deserve our respect for the fact that they give it no action, no flesh whatsoever. There must... Not every single person who finds that he or she is a paedophile goes out and does anything about it. They sit on it in silence and solitude for the whole of their lives. But they're stuck with it because one of the few things you can't change, cosmetically, surgically, or by going on a course, is your sexuality.
And what you've just described is a mental illness, which is what I said originally.
Well, no. But I mean, why are we talking about... Why do people always talk about being gay and paedophilia in the same breath? It's proven that the majority of paedophiles are heterosexual, not gay. Well, it's proven.
I don't know about it's proven.
It's proven.
Well, sexuality is a curious... Look, gentlemen, we all know, don't we? I mean, sexuality is a curious...
But nobody should impose their wish for sexual gratification on anybody who's not interested. And if we all did that, there'd never be a problem. It doesn't matter what sort of sexual orientation you have, as long as you're not forcing it on anyone who doesn't want it.
Well, that's true enough. And if you are in a position to force it on someone else, then you are using what I believe rape and all the other sexual excesses that people go to are, and that is you're using your power and you're on a power trip, I don't believe rape is very often a sexual assault. I think it is actually an exercise of you showing how powerful you are, and in fact, it's a vicious assault. It is not a sexual assault.
You see, we come almost full circle. We started off with religion, and we're nearly back there. Because recently, a number of church people have been convicted of interfering with children.
Yeah.
These are people who are supposed to live celibate lives. These are people who are supposed to be in trusted positions. And the hierarchy of the church, unfortunately, the Catholic Church involved, seem not to take it very seriously. I find the whole thing laughable. You know, we're so two-faced in this country. So many double standards. You've got this sort of stupid House of Lords and that ridiculous Baroness, whatever her name was, going on about how legalizing the age of consent or normalizing the age of consent for everybody the same is just going to open the floodgates of buggery. You know, as if you couldn't do that anyway. How ridiculous these people are. And then we could get on to let's get rid of the House of Lords totally once and for all, these unelected people. Kick them out.
Well, actually, I rather enjoy the House of Lords because
it gives you something to love.
The quality of debate is so much higher.
Come on, really?
Than that in the House of Commons.
I don't know how we can say that sitting here.
I have to say, man, I don't see too much of it, but...
No, I find the House of Lords debates are interesting, well structured. Their arguments are sound. They speak not from a political perspective, but from a point of view of common sense. And in fact, were we to get rid of one of the Houses of Parliament, I would personally get rid of the 650 MPs, of who we have far too many. We don't need even half that number. Very few of them do anything to earn their bread, and the only reason they're there anyway is because they weren't intelligent enough to get a proper job. If we believe that MPs are there because they're intellectually superior,
very good point.
It is only because they weren't bright enough to get a proper job.
That is such a good point. I am amazed at the amount of time I get to talk to MPs, of course, when they're not trying to find an excuse. Most of them don't talk to us anymore, of course. But they are so uninformed. I mean, look at William Hague the other day, who was going off on one, the leader, supposedly, of the opposition, trying to make points with the public and stick up for the police, and then use this a tragedy of the little boy who was killed recently. I mean, how on earth can a man be so stupid or be surrounded by so many stupid people as to make that sort of mistake?
Well, don't you think that the stupid people that matter to a politician are all the electorate?
Of course.
But
you see, we don't understand our power. If we actually stop, every time a member of Parliament walks into the local whatever it is and opens the fete, they're all there tugging the forelocks. Yeah. These are servants. They are our servants. Yeah. They're there because we are too busy and too intelligent to be there.
Don't vote for them, only encourages them.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I don't vote. I haven't voted for 4 elections.
I've never voted. James?
Well, yes, I have, but I'm beginning to think...
How have you voted?
I've voted most ways, depending on the local politician that I was faced with, but I'm not going to vote.
Are you talking about you've actually voted for an individual MP because you were impressed with that person?
Yeah, oh yes. Yeah.
But it doesn't work like that.
Well, no, I've realised that. I've grown up a little bit. I'm not voting anymore because somebody might say I could persuade other people in the way they should vote.
The other question is, do you vote for yourself, James, or do you vote for the country?
Do I vote for myself or the country?
Good question.
Very good question. Well, I think I'll vote for... I don't know, really.
If you want to ask me the same question, I've no doubt. I vote for me.
Yeah, I think I probably do.
If I voted, I would vote for the country. You're all right, Mike. You've got enough.
I mean,
You've got a church on your land, for Christ's sake.
I think we do. We think, who's going to give tax breaks? Who's going to improve? We do vote for ourselves, don't we? But if we don't vote, in a way, the politicians get away with it, because if we were to vote them in and out more regularly, they'd have to actually stick to what they said they were. They know that the majority of people are not interested. They don't vote. So they get away with these ridiculous things.
On 1089 and 10:53 a.m. TalkSport.
Debt? Tell me about it. I had bills coming out of my ears. I thought I'd never get straight until I called Debt Free Direct on 08000 93 94 93. They said, subject to acceptance, they could significantly reduce my payments and arrange for the debt I couldn't afford to repay to be written off. Sounds great, I thought, but does that mean I have to take out another loan? No, they said, and there's no upfront fee. That left me with just one affordable monthly payment and the freedom to get on with my life.
Call 08000 93 94 93. Debt Free Direct, a real solution.
Trevor, the empty Tommy wanted to know if you're around over the weekend. He needs to go through the last 4 years of sales figures with you. Can you give me a call back and let me know if that's okay?
Another reason to get away for a weekend with Avis. Rent a car for the weekend and get 3 days for the price of 2. Call 0870 60 60 100. Avis recommends Vauxhall cars. Rentals can be taken from noon on Thursdays and must include a Saturday night. Avis. We try harder.
Dickin versus Boyd versus Whale in a bite-off-your-ear Clash of the Titans special on TalkSport.
The next general election, Labour safe or...
No way.
No way.
No.
But William Hague, I can't get to like the guy.
Nor can anybody else. But when you think of the alternative, another 4 years or 5 years of the grinning jackanapes, I don't think anybody would put up with that. Also, Labour have just shot themselves in the foot so often. And I'm not making political points here, because I think all parliamentarians, all MPs, all those involved in politics are tarred with the same brush. They are all intellectually challenged. Anybody who wants to be an MP should be banned, should be barred from doing so, because they want to be one.
Mike, this government...
Then anarchy would ensue if we were to follow that.
This government has...
Hang on, give me one member of the Labour front bench that's ever done one job, apart from John Prescott, who was a steward on P&O liners. He's the only
Tony
person...
Banks.
He's not on the front bench.
He was, until recently, he was the Minister of Sport.
But he's not on the front bench now. Give me one front bench Labour MP who's ever done a job apart from being in politics. None.
Well, I can't
I
answer
think
that
they're all
because I can't
barristers,
think of
aren't
them.
they?
Yeah, something.
And then, anyway, Mike, that's really neither here nor there. If you want to talk about people who are living lives which are out of touch with the rest of us, then that's the opposition front bench, isn't it?
They're the same.
None of them have any. None of them have done a job.
No,
but interestingly, none of them seem to be interested in the things that ought to be the most important things as far as the British people and people around the planet are concerned, and that's just being able to set up a family and help each other within your own four walls in a home. If you can run a family, then you can run a country.
Well, agreed, but we're not allowed to run a family because those we've elected to ensure that we're allowed to get on and run our family interfere so often in our daily lives with their constant
they do,
politics.
Tony.
And they just get in your
Tommy,
way.
No.
Tommy, they do.
This is
I mean, they make it the whole time.
It's a matter of choice. If you decide to let somebody influence you, then they will.
Hang on, the law influences you. Let me give you your most recent change.
I didn't cut you out as somebody who was so feeble as to actually pick up the papers.
Let me just give
and
you an
read
example.
what they said in Parliament yesterday before you decide whether or not you're going to inhale or change your brand of toothpaste. For God's sake, your life is your own life. The things that you think are the things that you choose to think. The things that influence you are the things that you choose.
He's not going to concede a point because you know you're going to.
It's a philosophical point, and it's not one that is in any way.
Let's see how you cope with this. Let's see how you cope with this.
Any notion
all right, Tommy,
about
our
government...
Tommy, I keep on squealing like a banshee. You're not going to stop making the point. The most recent piece of legislation passed by this government regarding how you look after your family says that you, as a parent, cannot smack your child. The teacher, as in loco parentis, cannot smack your child. But a childminder, can smack your child.
But
now, what sort of bloody nonsense is that?
But it only fills...
That's the law.
But we're not going to abide by that law like we don't abide by so many of the other stupid laws made by the stupid people in this country.
If I may.
Actually, that isn't a stupid law, Alan, with respect. If you are stupid enough not to wear your seatbelt, then perhaps you shouldn't be given any treatment unless you are paying for it.
Well, I'm surprised that it's coming from you. I'm very surprised.
On the contrary, I have always said that we would all drive much more safely if we had no seatbelt.
What do you want,
and we had
in the middle of
a pointy stick heading straight for our sternum. That would slow us down and make us drive sensibly.
Well, of course, then we would be able to return to a National Health Service that had enough transplant organs to go around, because since we started wearing seatbelts, there aren't enough kidneys, hearts or anything else to go around, because so many people got killed, young, fit people got killed in their cars, that there were plenty of organs for transplant. Now there aren't enough because seatbelts have robbed our transplant surgeons of the raw materials of their trade. Aren't we filthy, rotten people?
Look, Mike, what it is, if I may, Mike,
it's true.
In the spirit of Christmas, what if I may...
Which we get back to show that if we all took more responsibility about our own lives, we'd be better off.
Will you shut up? I'm fed up with being interrupted by you over there.
James, open
please,
the bottle of wine.
You remind me of a parrot I used to work with in Brighton Dolphinarium.
Listen.
We used to say about him, if it's in his mouth...
Another bottle of wine. Tommy, come on.
It's time to pass the port.
Right.
I think
Tommy, come on, fire away.
What you have a case of here, Mike. You know they say that if a copper's been a copper for 10 years, he thinks everybody's a criminal because they're the only people he meets.
I didn't know that, but it's probably true, yes.
If you've been a journalist for too long...
What?
He's looking to see if I'm talking about somebody else.
Yeah.
If you've been a journalist for long enough, then you start to notice, you start to take politicians too seriously. This is Christmas. People are at home listening to this. They're with their families. This is where the focus of all our lives should be, and for most people actually is. You've quoted the law about smacking children, something I completely support. It's ludicrous that somebody 3 times the size of somebody else who isn't even related to that person should be somehow encouraged to commit what, if it were an adult, would be a common assault on that person. Okay, but as James said at great length, when he interrupted me, not the last time, at the time before.
I'm getting bored now, come on.
It's not something that actually affects us, because even though the law is there, none of us consult it or even consider it as we go through living our largely good, occasionally not quite so good lives. Yeah. That's the truth of it.
And if we consider our children need a smack, we will smack them.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
Whether they deserve it or not. I mean,
exactly.
Well, I've never hit anybody.
That's just in case.
And I'll say this in a room full of men who are bigger than me. I've never hit anybody smaller than me, and I never will.
Yeah, don't expect us to feel the same way.
Well, even
big kids.
No, my 3 girls, if they're when they were young, okay, I've still got little 9-year-olds.
Girls?
When she's naughty, not so much now because she's a clever girl now. But a few years ago, she was naughty. Yeah, she gets a tap in the legs. Definitely.
Oh God, I've got girls. I've got 3 girls. I've never smacked any of them. I've got 2 boys. I've knocked them all around the house.
Yeah. That's tragic.
I think, actually, to be honest, I don't think if you smack
no.
I think teachers smacking is out of order because I think they don't. But I think as a parent, if you have a very young child you can't talk to, if you have a 2-year-old that continually wants to run out of the garden gate and into the road, you're going to have to slap that child on the legs, probably.
Or tie at the garden gate.
You're failing.
No. Tommy, I tell you, Tommy, so many people would disagree with you on this.
Maybe they would,
but
they're wrong. I'm only qualified.
You're not going to change your view because you're in the minority, are
I am a qualified lecturer in child development.
Oh, please.
Where does this man find the time to do all these jobs?
I told you there's someone else.
I've kept myself busy.
No wonder.
Life is short. You've got to pack everything in. I might say, as my wife, a qualified practitioner in child development. And if you know what you're doing, then you don't even have to raise your voice to your child. You don't even have to be sarcastic. You don't even have to deny them rewards like sweets. You don't even have to send them to bed. They're your equals. They've got a lot to teach you. That's how it's worked out in our family. Maybe that's because we're professionals. Maybe it's because we thought
I'm beginning
long
to hate him, aren't you?
and hard before we decided
to do. He hasn't got any
smug
kids.
little git. Yeah, I'm
Have you
proud
got
of
children?
it. Yeah, I've got 2 that I'm paying for.
Why would that be funny, Alan?
Well, you both earn enough, so don't whinge about it.
True
now,
enough.
what about children's...
Hey,
at this time of the year.
Don't you start talking about money, you money-grabbing old...
Say, for what you earn and what you get for nothing.
Oh, excuse me. 2 hours a day, Dickin, eh?
Yeah.
Got the cigar out. By the time he opens up, it's goodbye, thanks a lot. Here comes the midday news.
2 months a year skiing in Switzerland, Brazil.
Yeah. And how many cars do we drive?
1 at a time.
Yeah. He drives up. Mind you, I must say, the man's a true professional. I've never known anyone who works from 10 to 12 who gets in before me in the morning, and I start at 6.
Yeah, I get in a 5:45.
Exactly. It beats me in the morning, James.
Seriously, why?
It's the only way I can get a parking space.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, but
That's
for
reasonable.
4 hours?
Tommy,
I'd rather lie in bed.
On your view on children, what about kids' manners these days, lately? Do you think children are polite as they used to be, or do you think it's better now?
Well, I guess probably it's worse, but that might be because they don't spend much time in fear any longer.
But is it worse, really, or are we just older? And as you get older, children look worse.
They challenge us from a younger age than they used to. They're turning into adults quicker than they used to. people say it's nutrition, people say it's cultural, but who knows? But it's a fact, isn't it, that boys now at the age of about 13 or 14 are beginning to find out what it's like, or want to find out what it's like to be an adult. What we have to bear in mind is the way they're behaving shows us what they think we're like, shows us what they think we think it is to be a man. So when they're belligerent, when they're loud, when they're abusive, when they're offensive, when they're making a step into the street, when they're treating us with no respect, they're trying to be like us. So who are we treating with low respect?
Do your children do
Tommy,
that? With all your professional skills, do your children do that?
Shall I tell you what? Shall I? I'm
Bloody hell. Tommy,
Be careful, Tommy.
I'd like to
no,
answer,
careful,
I'd
Tommy.
like to answer that
Be
question.
very careful, Tommy, because you could be talking all of us out of a job.
I would like to answer that question.
I mean, 2 child development lecturers and they can't control their own kids.
I would like to answer that question. My son, the other day, a couple of weeks ago, in the high street, he said to me, "I'll prove it to you, Dad," because we talked about this for on and off for a while. He said, "I'll prove it to you, Dad." And so he did. And he walked across the pedestrian walkway where we live. And I watched. It took about 5 or 10 minutes. But sure enough, a little old lady veered out of her path, coming towards him, veered from the way she was walking. He was walking slowly with his head down, just as if he was in thought, and bumped into him. And then as she bumped into him, she went, "Watch where you're going, young man." See? And I said to him, "What? I mean, how common is this?" He said, "Oh, it's extremely common amongst people of a certain age and a certain disposition to want to catch out young ne'er-do-wells."
Well, what we want is a granny development teacher.
Really?
Then,
You're
isn't
damn
it?
right.
Honestly.
Absolutely. They'll bump. And I watched, you see, years ago, I watched an old boy standing, apparently waiting to cross the road with a walking stick. He wasn't. He was waiting for cyclists, you see. And the minute a cyclist came along, he'd step into the curb. The cyclist would have to veer, and he'd wave his stick. This was his sport. I stood there, I was waiting for a bus. He did it again.
Tommy, where do you live?
I think that there are an awful lot of ill-mannered, dangerous, and
I
brutish
agree with
people
Tommy
of all
on this.
ages.
No, I agree with you, Tommy.
Of all ages.
I think young people generally, I'm not talking about the yobbos who nick the cars, break into homes. They're a minority.
You mean there are
thank God.
others?
There are. And I think the majority of teenagers from maybe 13 upwards are far better, more eloquent than they ever were years ago. Much better. I think, however, the older people are very bloody rude. I find older people now almost impossible to tolerate sometimes because they're looking for an argument.
Well,
they're
you
looking for an
imagine,
argument.
as we sit here, all the people that are visiting relatives today because you haven't seen them for a year. Why not? Because you don't like them. But you've invited them. It's some weak point in your life. About September, you said, "Why don't you come and spend Christmas with us?" And now there they are in the house.
Well, you shouldn't.
There's
I never
tension.
do.
Perhaps they live too far away.
Tension. There's little Auntie Violet sitting in the corner with her sherry, and she's had a few sherries, and she hates her daughter-in-law, and she keeps saying to her son, "Have you had enough to eat, son?" This is in his house. "Have you had enough to eat, son? Does she feed you properly?" And the wife is going, "Hello, Violet, isn't she lovely? You're not doing bloody strangler."
Do you know what I'm doing today?
Imagine.
Do you know where I'm going? Going out for an Indian. Just me and my wife.
You mean an Indian meal?
An Indian meal.
Would you please say that?
Where
Because
is
I find
the
that so
spirit of
offensive.
Christmas? I'm astounded. I'm sure the wine is up. Surely, please. You must be winding us up. You know, me and Tommy, we're going to tuck in. We're going to
tuck
a
into
nice
the
turkey,
What's
stuffing,
English
cranberry.
about turkey?
And he's going for an Indian. Where you go? You're going down the old chinkies.
What's English about turkey?
What do you mean we're saying? I don't care about English. I'm Scottish.
Oh, there you are then. You talk about tradition. I'm talking about English tradition.
He's about as Scottish as my...
I'm going to have a nice piece of beef. Good French beef.
Are you sure you haven't been eating it for a while now?
Somebody's been at the beef, but I think you lot have been at the port. I didn't get any. Who's got it?
Yeah.
Tell me, do you look forward to Christmas, James? Seriously?
No, I mean, I'd like to look forward to it for the reasons that Tommy said, but no, I mean, I think it annoys me a lot now. It annoys me that people try and be something they are really not. I mean, it's a great idea. Let's have a couple of holidays a year. But why on earth do we have the sort of the sort of thing that Christmas just annoys me? The cards, the presents, the pushing and
Why
shoving
do I like
in
the
the
presents?
shops.
I like the presents.
I like buying presents for people.
Yeah.
What's
You
wrong with
what?
that? I like buying presents for
What
people.
have you got for us then?
He's getting razor blades.
They both need razor blades.
There's not. I've just shaved mine.
Oh no! Do you not?
When you're buying a present for somebody, at least they are in your mind, and you're thinking well of them because you're thinking, what the hell can I possibly get him? And then you're seeing their face as they open the thing, and they're quite pleased that you thought about them.
I think Christmas makes a lot of people very miserable, and we don't. I mean, it's all right.
I actually enjoy it. I enjoy it,
seeing
but not
people
as
being miserable.
Yeah, I enjoy seeing people being miserable and making them miserable. No, I actually enjoy the Christmas things. I enjoy the family thing. Yeah. I enjoy all the togetherness and the good food and the good company and the good wine and the rest of it. And the presents, I think that's all lovely. But it has no significance to me beyond that. I mean,
it's not supposed to, Mike. It doesn't for anybody any longer. No, it doesn't for anybody any longer.
I think you can do. What annoys me about it is that everybody is supposed to change their life at the same time, and if you don't want to, it's almost impossible to carry on.
Well, it is a good time to take stock, isn't it? I mean, you do notice the passing of the years at Christmas.
Well, maybe New Year's a time.
More than it, because I bet all of us can each do. I bet all of us can each do the presents that we got when we were sort of like 10, 11, 12, 13. A big present, and that's the thing that.
I had nuts and an orange in my sock.
Yeah.
That
you
was it.
lying old git.
Yes, you did well. You did well, as they say.
He got 3 dinky cars. Now he's got 3 real cars.
I also had a pencil, I think, one year. And that was good. If I gave my kids nuts, an orange, and a pencil, I can tell you where they'd insert it pretty sweet. I mean, now they want something that comes in a very great box.
No, that's not true. Funnily enough, each of my children...
your children have been educated otherwise. You child development officers.
They do get a stocking, and they do get an orange, and it's quite interesting because we have oranges that sit on the kitchen table all year round, and they'll only eat one under sufferance. I've got to peel it and then say, whilst the telly's on, one piece of orange, and if I'm lucky, one bit will go down. But if you give them the orange and it's theirs, you see, and it forms part of their pile of presents that they've got down by the sofa where they've opened their presents, it becomes a possession of theirs. And you see that the orange goes upstairs into their bedroom with the same kind of reverence as their game station and their albums or whatever else they've got. And they eat it.
Really?
They eat the bloody thing.
How long does it take them?
Because it's theirs.
So how long does it take them to eat it?
Own. I've no idea. They do it by themselves. They probably eat it in one go like a baboon. I have no idea.
Why don't we give them a pineapple? Keep them up there all day.
I'm astounded how much you think, Tommy. Honestly, first time I've had a long chat with you, I'm astounded how much you think and watch how your children, as far as I'm concerned, there you go, girls, take it or leave it. There you go if you want it. If you don't, so what?
Yeah, but you started life as a footballer. You're common.
Not common.
I don't know how hard you do think about it, actually. I just remember my own childhood.
Trust me, you do, Tommy.
I remember my own childhood as faithfully as I can. I hold on to what it felt like.
Did you enjoy it?
I don't think I did as much as I pretended I did up until recently. Because, you always, yes, I had a happy childhood. Well, what do I mean by that?
Did you?
I think it was mixed. I think childhood is a very mixed time. It's
Did
a time,
you?
No, I did.
Time of fears and deprivations as well as pleasures.
Yeah, I do. I can never remember, both my parents are dead now, and I can never remember a time when they argued.
Strange.
I can never remember
a time my parents didn't.
But I hated school, you see. I used to make myself sick not to go to school. Really... People say, school was the best days of my life. I loathe it.
I used to say, as Tommy did, I had a happy childhood until I thought of it. Not that long ago, I started to think, did I have a happy childhood? And then I looked at the life my kids have got now, and I thought, Christ, they're having a happy childhood because they got me to look after them. When I think what happened... Well, the way I was looked after, it doesn't compare.
Yeah, but we didn't know anything better.
I'm a much better parent than my parents were.
No, I don't think I am. In fact, I don't think I'm a good parent all round. But I think my family were there. They were a family. They were devoted to bringing up their children. They did all the sort of normal things. I've never done that.
Well, you don't have to think too hard about being a parent. If your heart's in the right place, then you
don't need to be qualified
very often.
You don't need to be qualified.
I think people should read a book or two.
I enjoy greatly doing things for my kids.
Yes.
See, I think I've always treated my kids as individuals and not given the benefit of... Although now, I probably treat them when they're adults, I probably treat them like they're 12 years old. Because they never grow up in your own eyes.
Well, you're always a parent. They're always a child.
Yeah. But James, you raise an important point about our schools. In the course of training to be a teacher, I had to read up on why education is organised as it is in this country. And what I stumbled on amazes me about the Act which still governs all the secondary education in this country. In 1944, it was they decided that what we needed was a particular type of secondary education in this country, and that it should be compulsory, and that it should be organised along certain lines. And that 99% of that act is still in place and still governs what our schools are and what happens to our schools, and is still the overriding purpose why all our teenagers are sent to school. It was to win a war. It was to create a band of youngsters who would know how to march, who would know how to fall into line, and who would know how to obey orders without asking. And we're still
doing it.
We've still got schools, the main purpose of which is to produce robots.
Yep.
Like that. Not to denigrate those who fought in the war, but in 1944, the army said, we don't want to have to spend 18 weeks with these conscripts teaching them how, well, the things that I just mentioned. We want them ready to go and fight. But the trouble is that our schools are still organised along those lines.
I know, and that's why there are problems.
The purpose of our education is to create a successful state, which it kind of is. But the purpose of our education, just as the purpose of having children, should be to nurture people who have the maximum chance to be contented within their lives.
You see, our schools are by and large, though, still Victorian in their approach, and having, you know, a number of kids looking at a teacher, and that teacher writing things on a blackboard, etc., etc.
A chalkboard.
A chalkboard, sorry. Can't you say blackboard anymore?
No.
Oh, really? Yeah. Anyway,
well, it's all overhead projectors now, boys.
Yeah,
but
I'm
anyway,
sorry. Okay.
carry on.
But it's the same thing, and I'm sure there are better ways to impart knowledge. In America, it's slightly different. People don't seem to have such a them and us attitude. Here, however trendy and however young the teacher is, soon they lose that, and it's we've got to fight them and get them to. And you're absolutely right. If the people, the youngsters now, thank goodness, probably because of television and radio and everything else, and people know more, you wouldn't be able to get people to go and throw themselves down trenches like they could in the First World War. They wouldn't do it now. They wouldn't do it. I think that's a great improvement.
I think there's a wider point there as well. I was saying to my kids, and probably you may have talked this over with your own kids in your own way, just how proud are they to be British? And would they fight for their country? It was when we were watching a war film the other night, and they said, look on, I said about the 1914-18 war, about all those people who died in the trenches, very, very young, and they pretended they were older just to go there and get killed. And I was saying to my boys that they're 15, twins, I was saying, would you fight for your country? Would I hell?
Really?
Would I hell?
It's on the First World War. I just read a great book, Sebastian Fulk's Bird Song, it's called. Fabulous book. Excellent. Guys, really enjoyed your company. I really have.
Wish I could say the same.
The 2 hours has gone like that. James is off to the Indian. Tommy's off to the library. Mr. Dickin and I are off to the pub. As Mike and James would say, Happy Yuletide. James and I would say, Merry Christmas. Thanks for joining us.
From the three wise men plus Alan Brazil, we'll see you in the new year.
Yes, so we off.
On 1089 and 10:53 a.m. Talk Sport on the hour sports update and headline news from the Sky News Centre. It's 2 o'clock.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. Comment too if you wish. Even slap your legs and make a purchase from Ann Summers. But don't do nothing.